is that he graduated from real estate school. Now, I'm going to cheap out on my answer because I saw what Max answered, and I know Akashi's French, and I know they speak to each other. I kind of stole Max's answer from my own answer. That was my train of thought. Maxman, what was your train of thought?
My train of thought is that we've had too many no's as an answer. I'm using my high school kind of expertise.
Why did I cheat?
Like, we had too many no's in a row. It has to be yes eventually, and I think that is today. So that's...
I thought you were going to be like, yeah, me and my bro Aka, we talk all the time. You know, we're super close. And
call him Aka.
Yeah. I went to his party. Oh my gosh, I regret this pick. Kalaris, what about you?
I really hope it's wrong.
Okay, so Kalaris, what? Yes, let's actually see what our results are, and if Maxman's going to survive today. Because if it's wrong, oh, let's go. I love you, Maxman. I knew you were right. I never had a doubt in my mind.
Man, is that what happens if you have too many no's as an answer on the exam? At one point, it's going to be a yes, okay? It is going to be answer A, and I get answer A, so that's good. Kalaris is still ahead, actually. It's too much of a gap, but still. Closing.
Well, for you, he's too far ahead. For me, yeah, he's probably still too far ahead, to be honest. Let's be honest. Kalaris has been kind of on point. I mean, just stick with Pioneer every pick, and eventually you're going to get him right.
Yeah, Jason's creeping forwards with all of his great logic. I think Max is French and Akashi's French, so I'll pick the same as him. Okay, great. Thanks, Jason.
Expert level analysis that our host is bringing you here, but we also have some experts to come in and bring you the commentary as John Allen and Blank are going to take you into the first match.
I mean, Max knows what he's doing. He's got a system. He sticks to it, and he's gonna keep on sticking to it. I suppose it's good news. It's good news all around for the left-hand side of the desk. It's all right. Kalaris sometimes needs a little bit of humbling, so it's good for him.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, Jason was pretty on point recently in terms of his predictions so far, John, which is always nice to see. I think for Maxman, again, if we calculate this a little bit differently, John, if we had it in the case of, you know, you just had the points coming from where they finished in the podium, I think Maxman would be pretty far ahead, maybe similarly in line with Kalaris, and maybe Jason would be a little further behind. By further behind, I mean way at the back of the queue.
Maybe we should go back and actually do that. Run the actual numbers on it and see what would happen.
On the stats. Yeah.
On the stats. We'll get the calculators out in another scenario. But right now we're busy. We're heading over Erangel for the first time at Phase 3.
There we are. So obviously we only had one day off. We're straight back into Phase 3. With no messing here over the Western Europe broadcast. We just want to get action all day long. And obviously heading into Erangel is the perfect place for it to happen. Fairly central playing path as well, which you could see. There you go, guys at home. You actually get to see the map, which is incredible. Oh. We love that. And I can kind of hold off on talking about rotations as much anymore. And hopefully you guys can see it. Unless you guys like rotations, in which case I'm happy to talk about them all day long.
Talk about what you want. That's what I do.
I know you do, but you know, someone also has to, you know, take care of what's going on in the game.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Just because I go on tangents.
That's fine. You're the beautiful face, the beautiful voice of the broadcast. I'm just here to tell it how it is.
And how is it?
Well, the playing path is pretty nice, actually. Most teams being able to get into the positions they would like to. Game Lord now in green. You know, we are switching up the colors just a little bit this time around, but you should be able to find your teams that you are enjoying and watching just fine. They're heading up towards Yasnaya easily enough. We're hoping to see the circle pop soon, in which case we can kind of discuss where those rotations are going to take place. Pioneer heading up towards South George. They do this quite frequently and will head out towards Crates before making their move down towards Circle, which is on the eastern side. This is interesting, John, because we've seen a lot of western circles. Now, this could be where Eastern Stars can start to bring back some of that success we saw from in Phase 1. However, that did fall off in Phase 2. They got the last chicken dinner of Phase 2. Hopefully, that is a good sign to see them progress to something better in Phase 3.
Trying to hold out on the eastern side. Not going to have to move for quite a while. Shockwave all the way out to Lipovka on the east. Game Lord and Yasnaya. VIRTUS.PRO, Rozhok, NEXUS, Gatka. Fairly standard affairs with the Unicorns returning to Novo, ARB going to that military base. No one really hot dropping on one another. Those vehicle spawns didn't really get contested by a lot of teams. We've seen that a few times, right? We've seen a few drops onto those vehicles get contested, one player goes down from a team, they lose one, they lose two. But this time around, it's not going to be. I think we've lost Blank temporarily. We'll hopefully get back as soon as possible. Are you back?
Am I back? I don't know if I'm back.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll wait for word. I can hear Blank, but I don't think the broadcast can hear Blank. But either way, we're still going to be plowing on through with this Erangel. Ruthless Esports playing in a central position, playing over in Pochinki. Hasn't really been contested in times when Ruthless have been in the lobby. We've seen a couple of one or two hot drops, I believe, when they haven't been. So really, they've just been allowed that central position. The difficulty with Pochinki is how fast you get out of it, right? Because those teams on the west, the east, they're going to be rotating past you and trying to find ground in front and making sure that they have that position there. And if you don't leave Pochinki fast enough, it can prove to be a little bit of a barrier. It can stop you from moving forwards and really cut off those rotational paths. I think we have Blank back. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
there we go.
My system apparently forcibly muted me, so whatever I was saying, it was not happy about it. However, I've wrangled with the system, I've wrestled it to the ground, and I have unmuted it now, so it's fine.
It's just having a wrestle on our first Erangel. But again, no team's really super close by. At the moment, the team we're on board with XTEAM, who are probably the closest to another in 4 Romanian men, and QODEX, even further west of that, down by the Eastern Bridge.
I think for you talk about Pochinki, right, and also Ruthless Esports and how that can become a barrier. And like it's a good point because, you know, Nexus or MADBULLS could quite easily take up residence in Pochinki. It's the question of whether Ruthless Esports want to give up this spot and potentially play central. It is slightly more difficult to play central in a circle like this because it's shelter, which is quite the position that would be dead in the middle, right? Where you can play around that area and hopefully get some good spots. Unfortunately, with shelter, it's also very open. And a lot of times you're forcing yourselves into that position. If you're down to 3 players, you just want to play underneath, in the tunnels, inside the ammunitions areas. That's absolutely fine for yourself, but it's more a case of a survival position rather than a winning game position. So I do think this map is going to be dominated by a lot of these edge plays going forward, John.
At the moment, TJB fairly central, so they won't be able to play edge this time around. They are in that sort of shelter area that you're talking about, with players up towards prison. The Shockwave may be looking to move in there as well near Mansion, with those vehicles after leaving Lipovka. For Romanian men, they've regrouped. They're ready to go near the east end of Farm.
So obviously this is going to be a little bit of a lineup right now down towards Farm, and it's a good position to keep eyes on purely because like this is technically the edge of this circle. Yeah, you could maybe consider Sosnovka as well as being the edge, considering that's where the circle ends, right? But I would say that this is more of a position where we know this is most likely going to head towards that northern side. So for these players down towards Sosnovka, for them it's figuring out how do we get into the circle now and which edge do we play on, be that east, west, or even north if these teams want to take a really outrageous rotation. Unicorns are love, not in the best spots for themselves at the moment, John, because if they do cross on that eastern bridge, they're crossing into tons of teams down there, and it is going to be a real hodgepodge to wade their way through.
And it's something that we haven't really seen all that often in this tournament, in this lobby. As you were saying, we've seen a lot of Western circles, we've seen a couple of military circles, but no real Eastern circles for quite a while. So hopefully the Unicorns are in practice as to what to do in this scenario. I mean, they should be. This is, after all, the pro leagues. You do need to be aware of your game plan. I mean, if you don't have a game plan, what are you doing here?
Exactly. Fail to plan. Plan to fail.
Oh.
This is what all my teachers told me back in school. And it does ring true. You might not believe it, but it absolutely does. QODEX, finding some shots over towards Team Doom at the moment. Very low on the rankings currently in the general rankings. You saw that right at the beginning of the day and during the pre-show. Vito goes for a little bit of an ice skate down the ridge side and managed to find his way down. Not sure if he wanted to drop down that far. It was more of a case of a reposition. Unfortunately, the hill was very slippy. There's been some rain recently, apparently. Maniken, though, on the off will find that knock there, and that will be Team Doom just leaving. It's a good position to hold, and still that's all hats off to Vito, considering, you know, he's solo holding the Gitoon, the shed, right? He needs to hold that on his own, and pushing teams away like that, not always easy, but on a coordinated approach, I think Vito would have most likely gone down unless he did drop back away. But an easy free pickings there for QODEX will really secure their position down towards this cliff face.
Playing on that south shore, hopefully they can leverage that, use that control. East and west. But for now, teams are just starting to slink their way in. Actually quite a lot of presence just to the east of Farm, with TJB moving in. Shockwave, and I think that's Eastern Stars all the way out on the east. Yeah, we're on board with them now. Could come into conflict here around the lumberyard. The Eastern Stars pushing in from Milter Power. They left their drop spot there. Shockwave moving down from Lipovka over the top of Prison. And they both found themselves in one another's path. Northern side as well, Game Lord and Pioneer, both close to one another, with the outpost of Avalo on the northern side near the Stalber Hills. Will be spotting out the Pioneer rotation over the north side of Yasnaya.
Yeah, this is a really typical Game Lord play as well on the eastern side, and it's nice to see them go back to some of the basics here, because they do tend to hold out towards Lake on that crossing. They find Izumitsu, he goes down. Really, really good stuff so far from them. This is more of what we wanted to see from Game Lord, is taking this aggressive holds on the edges, and they haven't really been able to do that as much as they would have liked, considering we have had so many of those western circles. With this eastern circle, though, they're very, very happy to stop any kind of push coming in through Pioneer. If Big was in the lobby, this something similar might have happened to them, but it would have been a bit more of a crunch. So I like the foresight from Game Lord, knowing there's realistically only one team coming over the top without Na'Vi being in the game, and that would be Pioneer in this situation. So I am pleased with what I'm seeing from Game Lord, and I think from what I'm seeing from Game Lord right now, it does speak to some volumes of success, considering it looks a lot like the Game Lord that I'm used to seeing.
Ruthless Esports suffering in the hands of QODEX have been emanating a lot of threatening presence from that south shore right now in this game plan.
Yeah.
They've really been sort of putting the pressure on the teams around them. Team Doom obviously backed off. And now Ruthless losing players to them, and VIRTUS.PRO as well on this crash. This is not good news for the Ruthless gang. Salazar hops on in and will be shut down. Only the one knock over towards VP. And QODEX were in there as well.
Yeah, I think this is not exactly the worst play coming through from Ruthless. I think that looks bad on paper, but for them, with this circle that kind of centers down towards that area that no one really wanted to play in, everyone wanted to take that edge play in the begin with, and then everyone who was a little bit closer towards the center was maybe in a precarious spot has now found themselves in a good position, considering they can take a lot of those nice compounds early on, John. For Ruthless Esports, on the other hand, moving late from Pachinki, they tried to find a spot. They were aggressive with it. If they were able to pull that off, it could have been good, but I do think they were spotted out by too many teams there, and their crash onto VP is kind of torn apart just by a lot of other teams having oversight on that rotation.
Death Machine on the northern side. Find a divot, but not much else. Scouting out towards compounds around. TJB will be, I believe they scouted TJB in this location. Death Machine, either way, going to let TJB know they're there. The vehicle's making that noise, rotating on the north side of them. Pioneer went all the way to the east coast blank. They've gone past Lipovka, the forward guard, the vanguard of the squad for Pioneer, now reaching Milter Power. They'll play from the east side of the circle, probably looking to play edge. Similarly for Game Lord in the north on the edge.
Yeah, moving down. Again, this is slightly strange to me that everyone would try and center up on Milter very, very quickly we have seen multiple times now these MUERTE pushes where everyone gets very, very deep into MUERTE early on go quite badly for a lot of these teams. So that's something that needs to be maybe addressed, looked at here, John. If it's not a MUERTE circle, you are going to see it again. A lot of those teams getting torn up on the beach side, getting just pulled out of buildings as they try and hop out. And we are heading over towards that west. So again, a lot of these teams will have to move now, John.
Yes. You can see how tightly packed they are there. It is all about to kick off, I think. As all of those teams who have been trying to stay out one another's way will be forced to change their tune. Eastern Stars, you can see them setting up to reposition, to rotate. They are right on the eastern side of this circle, but they are right on the edge and potentially not to their favor. They will want to move a little bit further in towards Shockwave on the north, it seems. But here's a replay of the crash as VIRTUS.PRO held out. There are the knocks along the wall from the double swing from VIRTUS.PRO. That was really quite solid, I think, from VIRTUS.PRO to hold out. Tulika and MUERTE both swinging at exactly the same time, and there was no smoke cover either.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where they get sent off by QODEX and then you just have to readjust the plan midway through and make an aggressive rotate in towards the guys from VP. Arabian Champions, though, spot out a lot of players from Pioneers who are hoping to hold out any stragglers coming through from Sosnovka, and it's unfortunate that Black-White would go down. They were holding the cross there, and it's very, very speedy. Arabian Champions more than ready for this kind of hold on their side, and they're still within the circle as well, so they don't have to do too much. I think this maybe would have been a better hold for Pioneer if the circle had moved further away from the bridge side. Fortunately here, we're not getting that similar result.
Nade out the window. Ooh, not quite finding a Coney. A little bit longer in the cook and it might have done the damage, but not to be this time around. Terminus is down for Shockwave. The Eastern Stars still going strong on 4, holding out on the inside with 1 for Athis. K-Mate on the outside. Bazzi and Kapahala on the off angle there, but a nice nade around the corner. Finds Nightmare, and the spray down onto Coney from K-Mate is good as well. Athis will pick that one up. And Eastern Stars find what they're looking for against Shockwave. I think it's just Trazen now left for Shockwave.
Has to just instantly dip over towards 4 Romanian men's position. This building is free though, so you can maybe hang out here for a little bit longer. You know, there is a clear difference for the guys of Eastern Stars. I'll talk about that later though, because again, XTEAM really feels like the spoilers of the lobby at the moment, and very much coming in at the worst times for a lot of these teams. And it's due to late rotations or sloppy rotations, but you know, if you can't predict what XTEAM's doing, if XTEAM can't predict what they're doing, how the hell are you going to predict what XTEAM's doing if you're another team within this lobby?
Athis somehow gets away with that. Bazzi though, not so lucky. Will go down as they lose one of their players on the east side, but XTEAM are still on the outside. They are still on the outside track, out in the blue, and they will be forced to reposition. Kemi watching for players escaping on the left-hand side. Will spot 2 of them in the buggy, but not quite landing the spray there. Kemi not quite on the mark. Eastern shift, though, hard towards them.
Yeah, I don't... Nah, that is it's unfortunate, but also really a spray that he should be able to hit, especially in a buggy where, you know, it's not that hard to hit targets. There's a guy literally sitting off the back with a bullseye on the back of his head, and one lad just within a very, very easy frame to pop out. So, you know, I think Keme could have either gone for a better spray, or just, if he was unconfident in that, just opted to go for the spin out on the vehicle whilst it was still in the blue, in which case things would have been a lot easier. Game Lord now trying to crest over towards that northern side of the map. We'll just stim up at the moment. Narvala drops into the vehicle. It will be TJB ahead of them. We'll be holding them. They're slightly downhill, not trying to take too much of an aggressive approach on this one. TJB just spots that, you know, maybe Narvalo's taking an off angle.
Certainly is. Zittel at the front wants to put a nade in towards them. That's pretty good. Narvalo goes down and not traded off. A triple prediction for VP, by the way, in the meantime. As these nades go back and forth, we saw how well VP held off. Zittel finally answered. Victor looking for that res over onto Narvalo. Up top, they want to find some safety. There's a player at the top of the hill as well. They Akashi not quite there to get the backup. Novalo gets re-knocked almost immediately, but they do get him back up and stop that flush, so potential upside to that. Zittel still putting a spanner in the works here. It's the DBS around the side for Robs as he's dropped down to the ground floor, wants to put the lead out the window, and it's Xiao to fall finally. As Robs finds Zittel as well. 2 players from TJB go down, and only 2 traded off. TK first wants the spray down, but it's just him left, and Robs will see to it that he's behind the car, isolated and taken out.
Yeah, just takes the game into his own hands there with the DBS. Really, really well done from Game Lord. And I think from Robs in particular, I think I was a little bit, uncertain about Rob's plays in Phase 2. Definitely one of the more consistent members of the team, but nothing too special. That really does go to show how good all these players are on that team. Death Machine just get mowed down on the approach, and they'll be out of the game. I do think Akashi kind of left his team high and dry there, though I could be mistaken, and he might have been holding off a push from the top side, but with so many of those players from TJB just outside the Wizard Tower, it would have been a perfect opportunity for him to just peek over the top and get the drop on them. Instead, he's run down by GK first. I think that position he took didn't really do anything for the rest of the team.
No, I think that maybe there was a bit of miscommunication. It's always hard to say, because you never can quite tell exactly what happened. But either way, Game Lord do win the engagement, despite losing a player. QODEX now peppering on towards MADBULLS. The first knock over onto Zerek. He crawls on into the... Is that a Gitoon or is that a Garage de Vélo?
I'd say that's more of a Gitoon. I mean, I wouldn't leave my bikes in there personally, considering it doesn't look too safe. And if you have to drop smokes every 5 seconds to keep those bikes in the ramps, then it's not a place that I would like to leave mine in particular.
Fair enough, you're safety-oriented on the bikes. The VIRTUS.PRO triple prediction came through, Blank. And you can see they're on the compound just to the east, to the west now of the circle. They hold a very solid position. With 4 players alive, they need to push eastward. Not Clint the direction.
Wow, wow, wow. That was my wah-wah, but in Western movie edition. MADBULLS able to get themselves across. Obviously, this is off the back of them getting a massive mow down over towards Death Machine. They knew they opened this spot on the map, so can try and play from here. I think for VP, the reason that there's so many predictions going their way is because they control a major amount of space on that side of the circle. Whereas, a team like Arabian Champions, who have 4, they're all the way down towards that southeast side, so it does make life a little bit more difficult. Circle, you can see there, VP do need to move up, and 4 Romanian men have sat in this compound for a very long time. Similarly, you can just see the SW of Shockwave there in Trazen, who has just been living, man.
He's just going. How far can he get, staying isolated as Game Lord move in from that north side as well? It's going to be really, really tricky to find that. Game Lord spot beg for mercy. And QODEX have still been laying down the hurt in the first game of Phase 3. I feel like this is a little bit more presence than we've seen from them in a lot of these lobbies, but unfortunately they've been bonked down to 2, Blank. They won't have as much threatening presence as they once did in this game.
I think for QODEX, they have just been extremely aggressive. We've gone from a very, very, limited QODEX, which has been quite cautious, a little bit scared, to a QODEX that is more along the lines of, we might not always win the fights, but we are confident in our gunfights. Maybe our macro is not amazing, but we can still make this one work. In the meantime, MADBULLS sending the nades over towards VP's position, and you do feel like this is kind of the run over there for VP now, with Tunica still up. Does spot Rolkis, and Rolkis again. This guy consistently is timing things slightly off at the moment for himself.
Crypto sails on in to the shack. Rolkis is within resing distance. Tulica wants to get Mer back up, probably as a priority, which gives Unicorns of Love time to get Rolkis back up fairly confidently, but MADBULLS might not let VP have that sort of time. With the players going down, the triple prediction might not be solid, but there's still 2 of them going. And they do get that res. MADBULLS, do they know VP are here, or do they think they're fully flushed?
I was just about to say, we'll come back to this actually, let's just do it right now, because Zerish isn't waiting for anybody. Tulicate next to fall, and that's the MADBULLS going back into this one. 6 eliminations, 8, sorry, already here for them. Racking them up nice and quickly. They lost the ball just a little bit at the end of phase 2, but now they've dug around underneath the sofa and they found that one again.
Going up, smelling a change. Unicorns of Love still alive though. Icy knocked 2 players forward. Octavian takes a nade but doesn't go down. Made a sterner stuff.
Hamo does have to drop out. This is a team that I was uncertain how far they'd make it, with them being kind of locked in by a lot of teams. Now, this is the circle I did want to talk about on the right side of your screen. Moves right up towards the northern side. This is one hell of a shift here. It does still support the guys from 4 Romanian men. Unicorns of Love currently harassing their position, but it's Game Lord who still have a good spot here. Unfortunately, only down to 2 players in Robs and Victor, and it will be a tall task for them to continue this kind of carnage with only that amount of players. We have seen stranger things here in Western Europe, though, so I'm not counting them out as of yet.
MADBULLS still going. All 4 of them alive, and they are sending on in towards the Unicorns of Love, towards Team Doom, but with the players reduced, it's a little bit more haphazard. Zarek knocked on the outside there, will be available to flush. Unicorns of Love dropping Molotovs out the side, and the MADBULLS potentially falling down very, very low, but Unicorns go down first, and the MADBULLS have 3 alive. If Effect can get back up, they can look to try and prioritize getting Monkey back into the fold as well, and they've made it to cover.
Yeah, 4 Romanian men, I would personally try and push this one. There's so many smokes around this compound. Allowing a team like that with 3 get up in towards that spot is very, very dangerous. And now the rest of MADBULLS are starting to heal back up again, and they can continue to truck on forward. On the other hand, we have to talk about Eastern Stars, who are not quite out as of yet. So many compounds within this final circle to play around with, and it has allowed a lot of teams to get in, whereas 4 Romanian men have to give up a lot of space. Now just Trazen and Eastern Stars are looking to finish off the job they started earlier.
Trazen's on the stairwell, gets spotted out. Someone knocks Keme from across the way. That's Robs from Game Lord, but Trazen will not last. Athis sees to that. Skills knocked again, but they are trading off against Nexus. Everybody's starting to take casualties now. We have no full force teams at this stage, Blank. 11 eliminations for the MADBULLS, up to 12 now. 8 for the Eastern Stars. These teams are out for blood.
Next circle. See where it does head here, John, because Game Lord needed a miracle, and they will see the devil in that circle because it will not be coming their way. And the question is really how much time they have to pick Victor back up again and then get moving, because Kapahala now has information on that position, and the speed at which he dealt with Victor was absolutely monstrous there, John.
Finding these shots can be absolutely crucial at a time like this. This compound puts pressure on all 3 of these teams to leave. The question is who goes first, who has the resources to do so. There's a vehicle or 2 out the back that MADBULLS used to crash. Potential for them to try and use that to send on in. And if they move fast, they might be the first into this next circle, Blank.
Game Lord just has to hope, with them being on the fast side of the circle as well, they'll have to move quick. They did have a ward to play around with, but they have to hope that all these teams get into engagements very quickly. MADBULLS, though, we know this to be a team that likes to take position and play from there. They have a nade in hand, sent it over towards GetRex's position, and it'll be right on target. Instantly followed with a Molotov. He knew exactly what he was doing there. Monkey gets out of the way into the circle, and Eastern Stars can't quite find the bead on him.
Oh, there's the hop out, but it's not going to be swept away. Unfortunately, Effect not able to convert on that one. The rest of MADBULLS did get on further. Eastern Stars now making their strike out for the circle down towards the south side. Kapahala over that ridge. You can see him across the way. The other 2 players not quite so close. Smoke blooms behind the buggy. Through the porthole, Alawi doesn't quite find the shots. It's Team Doom jumping and hopping their way over towards the exit for the circle. Eastern Stars, they did take a knock there. The push comes through. Team Doom around the window. Alawi low. Can't quite push out into the blue anymore. Needs to hop out. There's the drop shot from Zero. And Team Doom find 1, but they do get traded off as the MADBULLS look for the shots and find them. Easy behind this wall. Now crunched between them and the blue. Will fall down, and everybody from the compound's dead, except for the MADBULLS. 2 players alive against 3 from Eastern Stars.
14 eliminations as well to Eastern Stars 10. Eastern Stars, though, losing 1 player. Doesn't really matter too much to them because it is just the 2, but Monkey and Skills both have a decent amount of cover. Ooh. Monkey steps up. That was hella aggressive. Now it's all down to Skills, and they know exactly where he's playing.
Seemingly so. Steps up, wants the challenge, will go for it, but can't quite capitalize, can't quite convert. Eastern Stars take the first chicken dinner here in phase 3. It went to them on the eastern side of the map, like you said you wanted to see them stand up, and that is exactly what they did. They did not have a quiet game. They burst out fast into this phase 3.
I mean, that's a technical back-to-back, right? From Sanhok straight over towards Erangel, from phase 2 into phase 3. Really, really good stuff from Eastern Stars. And I did want to talk about them earlier, but those circles got so hectic, so fast, John, that I really couldn't talk about them as much as I wanted to. It feels like now they're playing much more as that cohesive unit as they did in phase 1. You look at them in phase 2, and it feels like they're going back to strategies of past, where they were playing with Octavian Athis, and that's where they took so many off angles. I don't think that team plays very well under that kind of pressure of having 2 players all on their own. So I think they play much better as this squadron. And you see there, Athis, 1,000 damage done, and a lot of that is not found from any off angles because Athis was consistently with his teammates. I think as a 4, they're really strong, John.
Staying together, all 4 of the squad. Eastern Stars, they finish with 3, but they finish strong with a chicken dinner.
Strong indeed, getting themselves the chicken dinner and the victory here on the board. Very important for the boys from Romania, considering the performances we've seen here in phase 2. But what a great way to close things out as well with a high limb count. These Stars have to be happy about that. It's a good start, but I want it to be a little bit more than just a start here. I want to see that consistency through phase 3.
Yeah, I think we want to see what happened to Game Lord in the second phase, right, where they gave themselves a win and they just built some kind of consistency based on that win, right? So just feel a little bit more confident. And as they mentioned on the cast also, the fact that they were there as almost a full squad, right? They were just a squadron looking really strong. And I mean, all the teams are inside farm, the circle shifts away. Unfortunately, not a great circle for a lot of these teams. And Eastern Stars like, well, we're not going to play in farm. Let's play outside of it and just pick up whoever still is alive at the end. So yeah, it's a good game strat, and it worked out for Eastern Stars to pick up the win.
And then once they get into farm as well, they're later on, they're playing it pretty well as well. I mean, I recall multiple scenarios and situations where Eastern Stars has been able to convert wins in this area. I mean, they're playing from the east side of all of this, slowly coming on in. They know this terrain well, and it's good to see them get a conversion here, especially considering I think a little bit of attention and eyes was on, okay, the Romanian teams are really good, but where have they been this past phase or so? And it's good to see them actually a little step up here at the start of phase 3.
Yeah, I think we saw like 2 teams working from, well, pretty much acting the same, but from different positions. We had MADBULLS, I think they dropped over towards Milton Power, right? They pushed in from the east side to get to farm, and they had to kind of like fight their way through, but they didn't have a lot of teams on the east side, whereas MADBULLS, if we want to talk about them a little bit, they had to fight in from the west side, and they had to go through so many different teams. Unfortunately, our prediction as well of VIRTUS.PRO, but MADBULLS had a very interesting path in towards the final zone as well.
Yeah, even when they swiped away VIRTUS.PRO, I'm sure it was our prediction, all 3 of us, but you can't hate on it. It was just such a good breach, and it's MADBULLS, right? They're just clinical when it comes to those. They just push it, eliminate 2 players. The rest of the 2 players of VP just left that position. You're just going to chase them down, and you just pretty much clear 100% of the western side of the circle, making an entry point a little bit easier to make in farm itself, but yeah, unfortunately, sure, they don't get the win, but the thing is about MADBULLS, even when they don't get win, they still get so many points coming their way. They're hyper consistent with that potential to close off games, making this team so scary on this stage.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when they finally crashed into the farm compound, I think they had like 2 knocked, and they got a 3rd knock. They had 1 cleaned out as well, and it was, I think, Effect Lifto himself, who then goes on to eliminate Unicorns of Love and then get 2 reses through. Like, talk about being cool, calm, and collected. I don't know how MADBULLS pulls it off and stays alive and regroups, more importantly.
This team's magic, especially when it comes to approaching something like farm, where it's very open terrain. How do you make that happen without other teams' attention being drawn elsewhere, or a boatload of smokes? So yeah, excited to see them again play throughout phase 3 and show us that they are that cool, calm, collected team.
Yeah, and we'll touch on MADBULLS a little bit more in just a few minutes, as we want to focus on Eastern Stars and the individual stars on the team. As we take a look at their player stats here, we know Athis, I think it was, had 7 eliminations, and he had his...
Woo. It's only 1 over 1,000, so I kind of, had to.
You got to scale it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 7 limbs, 4 knocks, and 1,000 damage done, just being an absolute turret for his team. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were playing with 3 as well because XTEAM got the flank on Eastern Stars and knocked and eliminated Bazzi early on.
Yeah, it was a little bit tough to lose Bazzi, right? But it's good, and it brought up a few questions, right? We talked about it a little bit on the pre-show. Some teams that only have 1 player doing really well, and at that point, I think it's clear to say that Keme was definitely one of the star players for this roster, and it's good to see a little bit more life given to other players here. Athis, 7 limbs, that is fantastic, right? Making sure teams were not able to leave that farm area. So yeah, I think this is good hope for Eastern Stars, but once again, I hope this is going to build confidence for them to try and continue down this path of success.
One team that has been continuing their path of success ever since the first day is MADBULLS. We're going to jump into their player stats here in this match just to get an idea of who's really staying out for the team, though I think we can already kind of guess who it's going to be. Effect, 7 limbs, not 1,000 damage, but again, so consistent for this team, and I wonder if Zarich maybe didn't go down earlier on, maybe MADBULLS could actually pull the game out.
Yeah. They could have. Imagine the fact that you have 7 limbs off the back of not even getting a victory here alone. That's absolutely ridiculous here from them. So, yeah, I mean, what we're seeing from them already to start things out for Phase 3 is just really strong presence of mind in some of these fights. You're seeing how they're kind of working with some of the lips in the terrain that, to be honest with you, look at all the rest of the terrain. There really isn't much to work with. Moving up towards the compound and being able to hold down some of these positions very, very nicely. So, yeah, excited.
I also do really like how, and you mentioned it earlier, right, Jason, how he was able to res up the entirety of his team effect. Also, the fact that he used this smoke so efficiently, he was hyper aware of where the other teams were positioned in that position, what were the good angles to potentially eliminate them, blocks out those possibilities of vision, and then just he gets to res really easily off of that. So yeah, I always think that MADBULLS are really good of knowing where teams are placed and how to approach the situation on the best angle, and it always just helps them just once again remain hyper consistent. This is a very scary thing that they can just consistently be successful at.
Yeah, it is to talk about smokes. Also, their nade usage was phenomenal. I mean, we saw Effect get a nice nade into one of these little compounds, follows it up with a Molotov as well thereafter. I mean, they just seem to always kind of have a good feeling of where people are going to be playing from, especially when it gets to this close quarter combat, and then just capitalize off of it. But again, MADBULLS, another good performance. Eastern Stars, good performance out of them. We saw Gaylord have some decent points as well. But it is really crunch time for all these teams, and we even had Team Doom, a team we haven't really touched on too often, make it into our top 5 on top of that. Maybe due to position, maybe due to a step up out of them. Obviously, we'll find out as the matches do go on. But I thought it was also interesting to see that PIONER dropped towards George because Navi wasn't there. And we know Navi loves some North Georgia pull, but weren't really able to take advantage of the position, obviously.
Yeah, a bit far, right? In terms of full rotation paths, not exactly the easiest thing to make work. I think overall, though, with how that would go, if Navi were actually playing here for Erangel, I think in general, the overall central potential for circles, it always gives them a nice route from North George. So yeah, we'll see how it goes later on.
I think it's like pretty much your usual thing when you have a new phase starting, you've got these new groups, so you're maybe trying to like come up with new game plans, and you only had 1 day, so it's a bit tough to really try and prepare them beforehand. So either just like, hey, Navi's not here, let's just go for the spot. If it works out, maybe we can do it every time Navi's not in the lobby. So that could be a good long-term plan.
I'm so looking forward to Sanhok, which will be our 3rd match of the day, as we do have Miramar coming up next. But it's time to head to our commentators, though, because the game is ready to go. Are you ready to go, John Allen Blink?
Yeah, think so. You ready?
Yeah, pretty ready. I'm good to go. Yeah, every time. It's all good.
All right, should we?
Miramar. Come on, just
Yeah, Miramar.
Let's pull my feet. Yeah, it's got to Miramar. Let's just drop in. It's fine. It's just sandy times.
Fair enough. Yeah. Hopefully they've all been to shop before. They're all ready. They're all set up. They've got provisions. They got
Sun screamed up. That's what they need.
They've got their. Someone's bought a weird drink, and everyone's like, "Why have you got that?" And they're like, "I really like it." You know?
Yeah. We could pull at us as well, like as the English broadcast, we go to anywhere hot, and then we all go to the same pharmacist, and we all buy a bottle of sun cream each.
It was a queue of 3 of us.
Yeah. Well, we should have just shared it. I don't know what we're doing, but yeah, that's hopefully what a lot of these teams will be doing, is sharing some of the load at the moment, because we are seeing a lot of these players stepping up individually. I think Effect is one of these guys that we have to talk about. I know the rest of his team is excellent, and they kind of play around his playstyle as well, which is just hyper aggressive, constantly looking for new positionings. I think that even when Zerish goes down easily, you're able to see a player like Monkey who's able to take up the role of Zerish and find a new anchor point from the circle. They're constantly covering for each other as they start to lose players. I think a lot of times you won't see that with other teams, and it's really the highest of the high caliber teams that are able to be like, right, we have lost this guy of the team. He does this extremely well. Who now can take up that mantle? And yeah, slowly you get down to one player, and you have to kind of pick up all the slack, right? But when you're at 3 or 2, you suddenly have to play something very differently. I think MADBULLS are very good at doing that. Another team that's also excellent at doing that is Na'Vi, who's dropping into this game. We've seen multiple times where it's either Tixi and Matic or Meku, all able to do some amazing stuff. I think Kitsune, obviously a very, very smart cookie on the team as well, able to really call some good shots and also take some excellent angles when needs be.
Unfortunately, it does seem to be Kitsune getting picked off fairly often, but as a scout, you know, it kind of can come through as just what happens. It's a occupational hazard, we'll call it that. Take Aim Gaming, Shockwave both going out fairly north towards Torre Hamada, just to the north side of water treatment as well. Potential scuffle over some vehicles could be seen there. Picardo, let's take a look at who's dropping there. Looks like Ruthless Esports might be heading on in, but the circle pops out west towards El Pozo, towards Montenuevo.
Yeah, not a lot of teams here either. MADBULLS immediately with a good spot here in El Pozo. This is happy days for them. Similarly, Na'Vi up towards La Cobreria can make their move down towards this position. Very much a flatter plane of existence down towards this area of the map. Yeah, if we have a hard shift down towards the south, we're playing back in those valleys again, and you do need some of the high ground, but if we drop over towards this western side, it's going to be a lot nicer for these teams to play on like equal footing. And it's not going to be a case of if you didn't get to the circle early, you are not necessarily going to have the best of games and have to pull a Na'Vi, in which case you are just battling through thick and thin and the bullets are coming your way and you have to patch up the vest with duct tape wherever you can. This time around, though, it might be a little bit easier, in which case everyone's going to battle with the same kind of equipment.
Well, here's something interesting, Blank. Nobody's in Picardo. Because neither Death Machine nor ARB are in.
Woo!
So nobody dropped Picardo. Ruthless Esports are close by. I think they might poke their heads in if they spot that there's nobody there. But this is interesting. This is a new thing. We've seen someone in Picardo every single Miramar, and we've seen the fight between the two every single Miramar where they're both playing. And I imagine we'll see it later today, unless they decide to change things up. But nobody in this game is dropping Picardo.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to pull a Moist Critical there, but mainly just because I am so happy about this situation. However, it does take a slightly interesting effect on the lobby, John, with these two teams not playing Picardo and not just ripping each other to shreds and having a massive argument over on that side. You are now seeing, more than likely, 16 teams for a much more prolonged amount of time, which doesn't really free up a lot of space in the circle, which means edge players, edge groups of teams are going to find it slightly harder to make their way in. NEXUS takes shots down towards 4 Romanian men. This is on the southeast side, so already you may even be seeing that effect come into play on Miramar.
NEXUS on the south side of Los Leones. Spot 1 Romanian man. Malawi. We'll leave them at 3, fortunately, as the flush comes through. Feels like they might have been able to go for that res. They had vehicles. They probably had some cover. They might have had an opportunity to get res there, but for Romanian men, they just don't even want to bother. They want to secure their position instead, get some loot on board, start that looting phase, because Killer, you can see, basically nothing in this scenario. So
yeah.
I want to get some gear on board.
He is absolutely on nada there, so he will have to send his way down towards maybe top side of Los Leones and pick up some equipment on that side. Shockwave, historically pretty good on Miramar. They have fallen off just a little bit. Unfortunately, macro can only take you so far in these games. We'll always say it, and I'll say it again, it is much easier to teach a player how to rotate on a map, where is a good position to scout from. Studying other teams just takes time and hard work. But how, on the other hand, mechanical skill, that's kind of more natural talent. It's something that's much harder to teach. Yes, you can just train it as much as you can and be a competent player, but there are certainly players within this lobby which massively add to some of these teams. We're looking at Tixi, we're looking at Effect, we're looking at players like Athis from Eastern Stars.
Ooh. Haj is looking at Nightmare, who is having one of his namesakes. They might be able to get away with a little bit more here on the scuffle. All the way in the northeast, both of these teams, we said earlier, they dropped near to each other. They didn't really fight over the vehicles, but it seems like Cruz de Valle is under threat.
Yeah, it's slightly problematic for them. Take Aim Gaming taking quite an aggressive approach here. They have caused problems for teams like Unicorns of Love up here before, considering Unicorns of Love would like to tend to take this western rotation outside of Torre Armada down towards La Copadilla, considering, you know, that Na'Vi would move quite early down towards the south side with a circle like this. For Take Aim Gaming, they're hot on the heels every single time. I would say Take Aim Gaming is a pretty aggressive team. They don't always have the gun skill to back that up, but they certainly do take the chances of a lot of it. You even see it over towards Sanhok. They're always gearing up for a fight down towards that southwest bridge that comes from the mountain. And I really do like that. Unfortunately, they have been able to find as much success as they would like in the Western European Fall tournament, and there are some teams that are quite far ahead of them right now. Let's check in with the current rankings, shall we, John?
All right, let's take a check-in. What are you seeing on the current rankings? What's the what's the 4-1-1?
I'm gonna stall a little bit here.
Okay, all right,
Still,
that's fair.
Oh, quite get the keys in the ignition. There we go, we've started up. MADBULLS on the general rankings right now after that pretty damn good performance from the initial game, up to 580, now 50 points ahead of Pioneer. And Pioneer are really hoping to be the chasers this week, to potentially rip away that 20 points that you will get towards the finals from the overall general rankings. But MADBULLS very reluctant to let up that prize.
Not going to give it up without a fight. 50 points is quite a lead. I think that was the sort of difference that we saw between first and second in phase one, that they were constantly able to consolidate, keep ahead. It was about 40 or 50 points, something like that. 40, 45, but either way, they had that sort of presence over, which means that in a single phase, you can make up that difference, but it is really, really hard, and you need to play out of your minds, and not only that, you need to stop everyone else from doing so as well. And Eat rocks up on GK first. UMP in hand, spraying around the side of the rock. Unfortunately, Andy takes the brunt of it. GK first go for a wide rotation, tries to catch him out, and will be able to do so. Gets back to cover as well, and Andy flushed out. Beg for mercy. Puts that Molotov in to slow the near side of this rock as GK first puts a nade back. No backup just yet, but it is coming, albeit a little bit slowly for TJB. Crawls around and over as in they come. Backup has arrived, and GK first can take a little bit of a breather.
Yeah, here's the rest of the crew flying into position. Your Lin, I believe that is Sittle on that side as well. He just swipe through and Beg for Mercy immediately has to reposition. Xiao there with him. Sittle now making his way into the engagement. Nades over the top. Beg for Mercy currently playing that frontman spot with the two players on the backside. GK first while of information, but still steps up. I mean, I do just love the boldness of GK first. You know, he does things that you just never would expect to happen. Circle shift though, you see that on the top right side. We are not going to open ground. We're going over towards these high ground spots. Luckily for a lot of teams, they're already in position to make this one happen. The only other teams that kind of put out by this are 4 Romanian men and VP, who are still, you know, loitering around in Puerto Paraíso. So they've got a long way to go here, John.
Teams on the northern side, Crater Fields occupied by Na'Vi. Take Aim Gaming potentially looking to swing in behind them. could prove to be troublesome if Na'Vi aren't on the swivel. Shockwave on the northeast side as well. Going to be swinging down and potentially towards this engagement itself. Akoni, you can see on the northeast side of this fight. Rather of this scrap, to be honest.
Ow.
It's not an all-out-and-out fight. GK first out and behind the tree. Big for Mercy doesn't land the spray.
You know, I'm half expecting him to peek out from this tree now and insta-give Beg for Mercy.
Oh, well, he's done half of it. Beg for Mercy is there. Lin doesn't spray down the hill. Instead, takes a back seat and lets Zittel do it. Beg for Mercy does go down out in the smoke. GK first now, far less suppressed. The rest of XTEAM still need to be worried. GK first repositions behind the tree devoid of leaves.
I just don't understand how he makes that. And he's running across the road.
Oh my God.
Like, I genuinely feel bad for XTEAM because he's moving in ways that no one would ever expect you to. You know, he's playing right now like a Silver in Conqueror. You can't predict that type of movement.
Did you just call him a Silver?
He's playing like one. To be fair, you get caught out by those players all the time. You're like, surely he's not going to push this. There's no smokes available for him. Yet he does it anyway. And look, I'm not saying he is a Silver. I'm just saying he's employing some wacky tactics to really throw XTEAM off their game. And I feel like, you know, they absolutely have been there, getting the bus, and they're like, I don't want to mess with this guy anymore because he just does not make any sense in terms of skill, in terms of gunfighting, in terms of the things he does and when he does them.
It's kind of horrible, right, as well, because it makes you feel like a bit of a donut. When that sort of thing happens to you, it's like, oh, how do we let him cross? Oh no, they're taking us. Oh, they've got the. Oh no,
he spun the Miramar. He spun the Mirado round mid spray, and then Beckman's like, I have no more bullets left because I sprayed to the right side.
SLR in hand for Zittel. Lands two shots to the head. They're nice. Nice shots being unleashed by the rest of TJB as well. They survive to fight another day on the northeast side of this next circle in a fairly solid spot.
Yeah, it's not bad at all for them. I mean, their main problem at the moment is off towards their west side because getting up that hill towards the center would be nice, but quite difficult to command presence there this early on. XTEAM are quite close to it, but as we know and as we just saw, they were limited to just 2 members, so can't take anything too aggressive. VP now made their way up from Puerto Paraíso, and we get a hard shift over towards that western side. Really, really grim here. Hard to play around. Open space towards the middle in the fielded area, so difficult to even rotate through. And MADBULLS, who have just sat pretty over towards El Pozo this entire game, are laughing their heads off right now. This is another opportunity to extend that lead up towards the top of the general rankings.
Big. Trying to get on those top rankings. At the moment, in the overalls, they're sat 16th place. They're right on the bubble at this stage, are Big, in terms of being able to make it into the finals, which is the all-important position. 13 bonus points total, not ideal. And there you are. They would make it in if it all closed down now. They don't want to be in that sort of uncomfortable position, however. Is it going to replay of the run-up? Doran landing a nice spray there onto Get Wrecked as he swings in fast to the compound.
Yeah, TJB knew they had to make a wacky move there across the side of the valley. They sent over towards Shockwave's position. You can see them there. They did actually, in fact, get ahead of Shockwave and now are looking to finish off some of the members. One of the players is down. Zittel will knock another in turners, and now I believe that is just Trazer remaining. This guy is kind of a difficult task to deal with. A lot of times he's quite slippy. He's able to get through a fair few times where he shouldn't. Does make his way away down towards the south side. You can see now on the right side of your screen that position. If you look up towards the northwest side of XTEAM, that fielded area there really difficult to play around with. The road down towards the southeast as well, difficult to get across. And again, this is why I'm saying MADBULLS are having the happiest time ever, because they just need to wait for the rest of the teams to kind of go through the gauntlet before they get to them at the end of the level and them being the boss.
Shimmying around. Bullets kicking up the sand into his eyes, blinding him. Oh, what a blinder from Mihi. Speaking of, goodness me, the nade back over. Puts Doom in their place, backs them off for just a moment.
I mean, he was
Big
just
the time to get the res.
He was just the bait on the end of the tackle there. Mishi gets into position to send the nade over the top, which, you know, dynamite fishing isn't always the nicest thing, but it does deal with Team Doom quite effectively.
It does. You can't argue with the results. Say that for it. Sarah finds Michiu in the meantime. Big want to push through this. This is on the south side, the north of Monte Nuevo. Isolating a team, taking them down to control your further push would be excellent, but we'll see how effectively they can make that happen. Circle shifts, and you can see it's right onto Pioneer and Ruthless in the middle.
Yeah, so this is actually fairly decent for Ruthless, as well as Pioneer. As you mentioned, John, a lot of teams weren't in position to make this one happen. Everyone, you can see down towards Monte Nuevo, very cautious making that move up across the roads. Quite, again, just flat plains ahead of them. Smoke's required. You're reluctant to leave compounds over in that spot. You might even see teams just not even bother to try and make up towards the high ground, in which case Ruthless Esports and Pioneer can play this one out. Last game on Miramar, though, we did see Ruthless Esports in one hell of a position, unable to close the game out because they were stalled for such a long amount of time. So I think if there's anything they have learnt from their previous match, will be that they need to deal with targets effectively and swiftly, or just not at all, and just leave them alone and move into a better spot.
PNL cooking a nade towards the 4 Romanian men. Killer, potentially the target here, in through the window. Not going to find the damage though. Jumps up. Pulls another pin. Trying to spot an ankle. Trying to spot anything. Getting it through the window could be crucial. MUERTE moves around the side. Woodson down the bottom of the stairs as well. The prediction comes MADBULLS for Jason.
What are you doing?
Pioneer for the other two. Nade's not finding the money. Woodson burning away. Will take a lot of damage, get knocked. Out on the balcony, is covered for now. Killer drops another smoke, make it even harder for them to get pushed.
I like that from Killer. You know, he Molotovs himself, but he does cause some big problems, actually, for QODEX. Playing extremely low. Won't actually even find that nade, John.
I have no idea. They've just been absolutely befuddled by this push. PNL down. MUERTE now last standing for QODEX. Runner is downstairs with him now, and they want to get this res pretty badly, it seems. MUERTE dropping those smokes, isolating positions, trying to slow down the approach, and PNL is bleeding out in this time all the while. Runner will fall as MUERTE pushes out aggressively. Wants to get the flush, tags a couple of shots and forces this reposition from Killer if he wants to get his teammate up. MUERTE puts a nade in, but time is not on the side of PNL either. Both of these players looking to get their teammates up.
I think for MUERTE, I don't even think he's thinking about PNL, honestly. Goes for him now, but he's one of those players that just puts caution to the wind there. You saw him nade up the stairs, even take out his own teammate in Woodson at the top side, and Killer is just going to send away. Now, we did get the predictions of MADBULLS for Jason and Pioneer for Kalaris and Max. And now, if I know anything, when Kalaris and Max choose the optimal prediction where the team has the best spot, usually it's Jason who wins out on those. So I'm kind of hoping that we see MADBULLS with just the 3 players maybe do something incredible here, but Pioneer would be the obvious choice with this spot. Next circle about to hit on your screen. We're just waiting for that one. Na'Vi's shunted into a kind of an awkward spot over on that western side. Again, a very nasty shift down towards the south, which favors Ruthless Esports. There's really nowhere to play on that south side, so everyone will have to challenge Ruthless for that spot. Question is, are they prepared for the onslaught that is about to come their way?
Spray towards MADBULLS, but Toffees doesn't quite find the first. And now there's plenty of angles to be worried about as the MADBULLS start to envelop the point guard for Taking Gaming. See effect moving forwards. That's a lot of bullets sent down range, but it only finds the one knock. But it is traded off. Effect gets flushed out as well. In the meantime, Na'Vi trying to make that push shut out by VP.
Effect's still going. Did look like he left on their screen. Trey's in. And
Oh, Buzzy got it.
still in this one. Yeah, Effect looking to be brought back up. I think for Monkey, it's just a case of sending these over the top side. Mine does find Effect finally. That's a good nade. Won't quite finish the job though, but luckily Monkey's got another one to send over.
Only the 20 damage to either player. Not going to be enough to get those re-knocks, but Monkey moves through the blue and will get spotted. A nice ridge peek there. Monkey flushed out almost immediately blank. VP failed to hold Na'Vi off, although they do manage to take a little bit of a toll on them, as one player from Na'Vi did go down, but Na'Vi are ahead in the queue on the western side now.
Yeah, you sacrifice one player for that. Beast gets mollied, will have to push aggressively as English, star player from MUERTE, tries to handle him, but so low, you wonder what he can do. Runs into his own Molotov there, and now Beast in a tricky situation, has to move out. Got to be all eyes on him, just sets behind the barricade, try and keep himself alive for just a touch longer.
Skills knocked out of the buggy there as MADBULLS go down. Perishes with the hopes of Jason's prediction point. Big. Do have a player left to get the res, and they're really close to this next circle, so it's a very slow blue zone. They will be able to survive for a moment longer.
Na'Vi with 3, did find themselves the ditch down here. Again, it's not a lot to play with, and Kitsune missing that shot does provide information back over towards VP now. Playing as a 2-2, they can kind of encircle this unit of Na'Vi who are playing very tight-knit considering they're the 3 players. Can't really afford to take a big off angle right now without the element of surprise, which they absolutely do not have. Some nice shots. Mir just about gets away.
Gets behind the ridge. And will have some cover to get some healing done. Big from the south side, pretty close to them. If Tula can hold them off, good. Nades sent over their way, then I think they're known. An old boy actually maybe getting a little bit more aggressive as well towards it. Na'Vi spot Pioneer trying to push in from the north side, but one of them gets knocked. Tixi falls down to VIRTUS.PRO on the backstab. It's an unfortunate situation for Na'Vi. But Fash falls as well. Meku repositions to Tixi. It looks like they really want to get this res blank.
Yeah, flying across there, but Mir, he will get the bleed out on him, and Meku was just about to get that res. If they wanted any hope of maybe taking the victory here on Miramar, they desperately did need Tixi back up again with 2. It's going to be infinitely harder. You need the 4 to provide all those angles, especially on this open ground we were talking about earlier. Every team has to head towards the center, so many teams now taking shots down below. Ruthless Esports cutting up Take Aim Gaming. Happy goes down to Pioneer, will sift that one away. Eastern Stars, though, do find a knock over towards Ulysses. This is the 2 players, I believe, on the eastern side of the circle, still holding the little bit of high ground, still remaining within the circle, but so many teams now flying their way in. Pioneers, Ruthless Esports, Take Aim Gaming, all down that way.
Pioneer actually just sent themselves all the way into the front of this fight between Ruthless and Take Aim Gaming. Na'Vi still being guarded out by VIRTUS.PRO. They let them get ahead, sure, but they put them into the cauldron. They're giving it a mix now. Kitsune all the way into the center of the circle. Na'Vi trying to survive as long as possible. I think spotted out by a couple. Pioneer trying to slow down this fight. Eastern Stars want to swing in ahead of them and put pressure on that way.
Yeah, MUERTE surviving a surprising amount of time after their engagement between them and Big. Take Aim Gaming, though, Jesus, with 8 eliminations so far. Nade is so close. A single tick from the blue will take him down, so you have to be careful about that. Salazar still in the building, holding very quietly, trying to be as silent as possible, but now will move out. Tries to get some knocks in, but the blue still pushing him. Has to move out the window, and it's curtains for him.
Pushing up as well as Pioneer. They hear some fighting going on across the way and they want a part of it. Black-White backs up all the way as Havlik gets knocked as well. Pioneer laid low. Kitsune chiming into the fight as well. Finds Take Aim Gaming, and it's absolutely curtains on the northern side for everybody trying to push on in. Na'Vi with Kitsune still holding out as Dadev and the rest of MUERTE moving forwards now to slow down VIRTUS.PRO, stopping them from taking the fight.
Yeah, Kitsune was able to glide in with the buggy behind the loot crate, so actually able to find himself a pretty decent position. That nade might be able to get through the window or down towards Striker's spot. Looking to pick up some more eliminations on the game. Chulika actually looking fairly strong in this game. Him and Mir have been doing a lot. Chulika really has fallen off a little bit from phase 1, and in phase 2 is kind of non-existent. A lot of the pressure been put towards Yankee and Old Boy, looking to step back up again. Beautiful Molotov. That is desperate days for MUERTE.
VIRTUS.PRO, they learned about the Molotovs previously on Miramar. Seems like they have dished out a taste of the medicine that they so humbly had to swallow previously. Na'Vi, with their solo still going. 2 players for Pioneer, 2 for Eastern Stars, but VIRTUS.PRO on the south with 4.
Yeah, I think that we really need to look where this circle goes, and it is just slightly in front of VIRTUS.PRO. If it headed any up towards Eastern Stars, they would have held with Pioneer and almost formed the 4-man unit of their own. Being in the open does cause a little bit of panic here for VP because they know they can be exposed from a lot of different angles. Bazzi just tries to keep the guys from Pioneers at bay, would like to not lose out on a 3rd place finish here with Kitsune right in the middle, still towards the blue itself. The circle.
Uh-oh. Both of the Eastern Stars crashing on forwards. 1 out, 2 down. Not entirely sure what you wanted to achieve with that, but that allows Pioneer to move forwards to Na'Vi's position. Havlik spots it. He's going to go for the spray, and Kitsune, yeah, you're done for. Now Pioneer, one of the 2 teams remaining. VIRTUS.PRO with 4 alive, well, 3 alive still as Mir goes down. Havlik looking to put some shots in as well. They have the high ground.
Yeah, Kitsune was able to flush out Mir in breakneck speed there. Now Pioneer with a chance in this game, a difficult task ahead of them. It will be difficult to complete. They do get some refreshes on nades, etc. potentially, but Havlik, no utility as of yet found. Some stims maybe, but that's about it. See Chulika with a Molotov, no smokes, grenades. I think the smokes for Pioneer that they were desperately looking for. And now they have to do something with just the guns in their hands.
Black White tries to reposition in the vehicle, but gets sprayed down for the trouble. Really low. Gets to cover, though. How? Not entirely sure. That's a very good question. VIRTUS.PRO dropped the ball a little bit. That's the last first aid for Black White, though. Oh, he picks up 2 more. Never mind.
That was a HE as well. Havlik trying to spray through the smoke here. Not quite in nade distance. It's a little bit far for them. Chulika's going to try and go for it. A long one over the top. They are both in a similar spot here. That nade's right on target. And it will finish it off. Lickety split.
VIRTUS.PRO from down low out in the fields control the players up towards the north who had been fighting each other for so long. Blank, they had been through the wars. Nobody was unscathed up there. And instead, they were taken down in numbers. They didn't have the presence that they needed to take on VIRTUS.PRO, who remained as 4 until the very end.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy for VIRTUS.PRO either. They were like pinched on either side by Na'Vi as well as Pioneer early on in that engagement and were able to hold out all on their lonesome. And I think it was really pivotal that they remained as 4 there. They were very cautious. They didn't want to lose players. Chulika, Mia doing some really good job there. And Old Boy obviously finishing out with a really, really nice nade over the top side. I think they should be proud of themselves because I don't think that was an easy game to finish out on.
No, it was a solid performance. And again, that's the second time we've seen that kind of performance take home a chicken dinner here in Phase 3. After the Eastern Stars chicken dinner in game number 1 that they played fairly solidly for. This, I feel, maybe a little bit harder fought, as you kind of highlighted there, but absolutely great to see the phase kicking off like this.
Again, it's still really, really difficult for a lot of these teams who had extremely potent positioning within that circle. There was a lot of really massive priority spots within that circle that Pioneer held, RUTHLESS Esports held, but the circle was all over the place. It was so difficult to predict, and really in those situations, a team that does succeed there is a team that's playing edge and has the most members, and in this case, it was VIRTUS.PRO who was able to clean it up. I will say one thing is that I was a little bit disappointed in the push coming through from Eastern Stars. I feel like that could have been executed a little bit better. They had the high ground to mess around with as well, so I don't think they had to full send in the vehicle. Surely they had information on that with the bullets that were been sent through from Pioneer. I don't know, man. It wasn't my favorite. I'll put it that way.
well, might not be in your favorite, but VIRTUS.PRO do take home the chicken dinner anyway. They are going to be able to claim that glory for themselves here on Miramar. We're going to go to a short break. Don't go anywhere.
Let's go.
Get ready. Base C has been activated. Team has taken a base successfully. Base B has been activated. Taken a base successfully. Base A has been activated.
Team match, let's go.
Oh, okay, we're back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show here. As we got to see some sick 4v4 and 1v1 action. Maybe we'll see some 2v2 out of Maxman and myself a little bit later on in the show, or potentially the next few days, though. I'm going to tell you right now, don't watch it because you don't want to see me get my butt absolutely kicked But VIRTUS.PRO kicked the butts of everyone in the lobby here, closing out a chicken dinner here on match 2. Super important for them, getting themselves 23 points. But again, we're still seeing Eastern Stars up there in 3rd.
Yeah, and as they talked about during the cast also, this was not an easy game to play for any of the teams involved, right? We had circle shift after circle shift. Every kind of terrain was changing every 2 seconds. So every team that was able to adapt to that were able to find some decent amount of success, and VP was the one that was able to adapt. I think you mentioned it, Kalaris, like they went from the southeast and over to the western side. Like they've been doing some wide rotations to actually get in the best potential angle, then to push onto the MUERTE, get the center, and pretty much to win off the back of that.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end of this game as a whole, you watched as there was just non-stop carnage because of how difficult these locations are to play. I mean, with teams having themselves kind of fortified setup positions and stuff like that, and still having a hard time, the sends that teams like Pioneer had to do were very important. I'm surprised they got second off the back of the sends that they made throughout all of this. But Eastern Stars, again, with points on the board, you know what? I like it. I like it.
That's the thing with Pioneer, right? We already talked about this super consistency so far in this tournament. Even with a very tough circle, they make things stick, and they can just get himself a second place with 6 eliminations, and that's why they're just currently super consistent on every single battlegrounds, because they can adapt to anything that is thrown at them. Though on the bottom, you know, MADBULLS maybe a little bit too wide of a split. I think we talked about it a little bit, Kalaris, that they had a big split down south of El Pozo, I believe it was, and unfortunately, Navi push in, get himself a few limbs here and there. So yeah, a little bit too long of a split, but some good scouting done at least, so they had that information.
A little bit rough considering it's like a home circle for them, right? I mean, I see the first circle and we're talking about where it could go, and then I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but never mind, because hard shifts are gonna, you know, make this hard for them. But it actually eventually hard shifted away and then hard shifted back towards the middle of that initial first circle. So it's kind of going the way of MADBULLS. But yeah, sometimes, you know, having the splits like that, they will kind of, I guess, betray you down the line if teams like, you know, your Navis, etc., are moving in and just being able to pick off 1 or 2 here and there. So get together when you need to. I know that it's quite a it's quite the skill actually, is grouping up back together. Some people will be watching the game and thinking to themselves, well, why don't they always just stay together? Newsflash, most of the time you can't do that if you're a great team. You need to be controlling big spaces to be able to get into the later stages of games.
You sounded like an old 50-year-old man complaining about the
shouts at cloud.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you channeled your inner persona for that. But honestly, like, we got to the later zones, things got really hectic as well. I mean, we had, was it Pioneer and Tag, like, fighting towards, like, the northern side of one of these, like, final zones. And then we had VP Eastern Stars also fighting them as well, like shooting out their direction. And MUERTE was sitting next to VIRTUS.PRO just chilling, like, yeah, we're not going to get involved. Maybe we'll try to kill VIRTUS.PRO if we can. But honestly, I was surprised to see Pioneer just survive through that onslaught of bullets coming their way.
Yeah, they actually got pretty lucky in their spot where they actually got most of their players knocked, because it was a little bit of a plateau, so you're basically escaping the visibility of your Navis, your Ruthless, your Tags also, so you can just heal up. And also they had, I believe, 2 cars at the time, so the timing was key, where there was Ruthless going for the push on Take Aim Gaming, and then like, okay, this fight's currently unfolding, we can see the elimination feed lighten up, so let's just go for that push, close the gap, because they clearly can't stop us from closing the gap, eliminate the team, and then we have full control on the northern side, which is a high ground. Then of course the circle doesn't go their way, but still it was a good play at the time, and it was able to just get more eliminations and also make it a little bit further in the game. So that's once again Pioneer being able to, no matter what you throw at them, they always can find a solution to make something somewhat work in that game.
I think that's honestly a trait, Kalaris, that I think a lot of teams don't have, and I think it's a super important trait actually to be able to turn something out of nothing sometimes. You know, because obviously you can't depend on the zone to go your way every time. You can't depend to be center. You can't depend on things always going your way. But for a team to consistently put up points being in such a bad position, I think is one thing that in my mind makes him such a good and strong team.
Yeah, it's like when you're playing Edge and trying to salvage anything you possibly can from that game, there are moments where when you're playing Edge, as much as it's kind of like a catch-22, because if you run out of utility, then it's bad news and stuff like that. But you fight every fight like it's your last fight in that game. So you're using a lot of your utility to assume that when you finish that fight and you can kind of go and loot those body boxes, then you'll have more utility to be able to take that next fight, which could be your last in the game, right? You give a lot of what you've got in each of those fights on the Edge when you're trying to just get as many elimination points as possible if you think you're not going to be able to get to the winning stages of the game.
Okay, actually, I like how you broke that down. That's quite perfect here. It's also perfect is probably VIRTUS.PRO's player stats. Let's actually take a look at them really quickly to give you guys an idea of who was doing the work for the team. And it, well, funny enough, was kind of just the whole team generally doing the same amount of damage, though Mir at 523. very good team effort.
Yeah, Old Boy just clutching things out versus Big at one point. I think he got like 3 of those eliminations on Big at one point, so he's still just clearing solo. But as you said, we wanted to see maybe a little bit more team step up around him. Tulik has definitely been doing that for a long period of time, but I think Mir has been, you know, a bit more silent if you compare to like Tulik, Yankee, and especially Old Boy, right? I think Mir's the player that I wanted to see a little bit more of, so good to see him have a little bit of an impact on this game and being the top damage dealer of the team this game.
Yeah, it wasn't the loudest game for VP, right? Considering how all this game went down, but I would compare, if you looked at probably overall damage numbers from this game, it would probably look very Sanhok-esque because of the way in which that terrain does work out south of El Pozo, south of that kind of farm field that is near El Pozo as well as a whole, because there's really not that much terrain to actually work with from there. So even VIRTUS.PRO's move towards a win was very cautious, very timid. You saw as they're trying to move up onto that little kind of haystack area with the little gitun, the shed there as well. Very slow and patient wins them the race here.
Yeah, also Mir's got 6 tattoos. That's it. That's my last point.
Great.
Max with his always hard-hitting analysis here. Let's head over to our commentators, though, to kick off. Actually, no, we're not going to do that because I can't hear anything. We're going to do some social media, guys, at home. You guys can tweet to us with what you guys are, or how you're watching PMPL Western Europe with the hashtag PMPLWU. And I believe we actually do have one to show you. Max, handpick through the plethora of submissions we have.
Yeah,
Max,
we got
chosen this one.
We got so many. It was really hard to decide, Jason, which one I was going to pick. But this one was nice because, I mean, in absolute darkness. I think he forgot to pay his electricity bill. I'm not going to lie.
Is that in the void of space?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
What's happening there?
Wait, forgot to pay his electricity bill, but was still able to watch on a device that required power.
Just ignore Max's logic. It's useless.
I don't know. He was on a bike and he's just
but
like...
I'm sure the person who submitted it had great tattoos, though. You know who also has great tattoos? Your boy Blake. But John Allen is also there on the side.
Hey, I don't know if you caught that, Blank, but also that was a rare photo of us on that for the watch video, right? For the watch along. It was both of us.
It was both of us. We were chilling there. It was a good time. I'm glad that he's enjoying the show. You know, you can put the lights off. A romantic evening with John and Blank. That's what it's all about. We're here for it. Put some candles on, man. I am here for you, man. That watches in the dark, in space. That's all
Keep those rose
about.
petals to yourself, mate.
Oh, mate, I'm loving it. I'm having it. This is the best time ever. I'm glad someone enjoys the show just as much as we do here on the broadcast. We are having a playing path all the way from the southwest side up towards Camp Bravo, so Unicorns of Love should be able to get out towards Tapmock rather easily without too much trouble for themselves. Not really much trouble for anyone here. VIRTUS.PRO not playing, Team Doom, TJB, or Shockwave, so they're not going to have some weird splits from TJB down from Paradise Resort towards Barnside. Overall, happy days. And the 777 comes through there. It's 7. He's gaming. 7 World's gaming.
Oh, goodness me. I didn't realise he was coming over to Europe this early. It's not time for the regions to meet. Not just yet. Blank. Oh, you got me excited there. And now I feel sad that we don't have 7 with us.
I just want to see him again one more time, please. I saw him recently, but I need to see him again. It's been a long time. I've got some good photos for him actually that I haven't posted yet, so maybe I'll grace the old Instagram with some 7 pictures later. 374 meters on the longest limb. Jesus, that's a long shot. I mean, we have a lot of long shots there. In fact, I think I think it was like 324 being our max for a longest time in phase 1, but already some of these lads blowing out the water just off the side of Miramar. Wadea and Vito, it's time.
Oh, ARB with another early fight. This time around, though, Wadea is able to win the cave duel. And he is King Caveman.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, sad for Vito there. He was like, ho, you're approaching me, huh? And Wadea was like, yeah, if I don't get closer to you, I can't get the elimination points out of you.
JoJo reference.
That was a little JoJo reference right there.
Oh, no way. That's quite Shinigami.
That is quite Shinigami, but not very backer at the end of the day. Yeah. I think anyone who watches this show, if you're an anime fan, you are either getting some good stuff or some bad stuff. Gonzo, fortunately, he is definitely getting the bad stuff there. Gets eliminated almost instantaneously down towards the south side. Precarious spot that he found himself in. Unfortunate there. Is that a shark tail on the back of that skin? What am I looking at?
I don't know. It's a tiny little. It looks.
A little summit, yeah.
It looks vestigial at best.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Didn't like that. Death Machine, chilling off towards that eastern side. They got 2 players down towards Barn as well as Camp Bravo. Luckily, TJB isn't here to spoil the day. MUERTE do take a knock over towards one of their players.
Okay. There's been a lot of early scuffles on this Sanhok flank. It's been quite a lot of early knocks, early flushes. I mean, we've already seen 2 go down and a 3rd knock over to MUERTE. The teams are quite close by to one another in quite a lot of areas of the map. The central area, I think, is notably quite empty right now, Blank.
Yeah, very barren at the moment. So we're waiting for a cataclysmic event to change that in the future, which should be coming right after the wrath of Pioneer as they move through from that western side jump. John Boy's gone. So
I was just given this this slow engagement the space that it needed. Nade in hand. Don't know if he's prepared, but Maz repositions in time. Around the side of the window, Ingush, one of the star players from MUERTE. We highlighted him yesterday, now in a fight against Jamaz. Of course, ARB winning out the caveman fight, but unfortunately, against MUERTE, they fall a little bit short, losing Jamaz.
I like that from Striker, just pulls an Angelina Jolie and curves that bullet around the wall. Was not prepared for that one at all. And now, just gets back into cover. For MUERTE, this is down towards the south side, to the east of Sami. No TJB, no other nasty little healer teams down here either, so MUERTE is happy to pick this one up with Dadaev. And you know, I think MUERTE is the first team in many a moon that I have been okay with being a healer team.
Why is that?
Because they play a very similar strategy to Nigma Galaxy. I feel like you see a lot of teams that play heal on Sanhok in the past that just weren't getting points elsewhere, and Sanhok was kind of the last hope for them, really, in terms of getting those points to get into the finals. However, MUERTE is generally very aggressive on Sanhok, and they claim Sami. They don't let anyone come near it, and then when they go in towards the circles later, you know, you leave your boy Dadaev behind to heal, and then they get in, they get stuck in, and they do the damage, they dish it out, and they get a lot of teams wounded and in critical condition, in which case Dadaev can ladder up quicker. I think that is the way to play it. It's not a case of just dipping out of Sanhok and sitting in Sami all game.
I have to...
That's shots fired right there, by the way.
That is real big shots fired. I'm keeping my head down. I don't want to catch any of that flack.
I should do. I've got an M249 here. I've got 150 bullets in the mag. I can go for days.
Whoa! They're coming overhead.
Tap, that is.
If you tap with a rate of 1 per hour, then you have 150 hours.
That's right.
That's exactly right. NEXUS holding out on the top of the ridgeline near Take Aim Gaming. Getting some scouting information. Not really peeking too far over the bottom of the hill, so maybe not spotting Take Aim Gaming just yet. The other teams around them will have to be careful for the time being. Teams did fill that central void that was there earlier, Blank, that we saw before.
Yeah, they're in there almost immediately. We didn't see too many teams taking too much time to get here. It was mainly getting looted up, ensuring that they had the weaponry and the equipment on board to last the storm over on this side. Circle does move a little bit further up towards that northwest. So again, there is still a lot more space on the coastal edge, at least the river edge in this case. There's a fair few compounds that teams could pick up on. And with Eastern Stars not crossing early and Game Lord out of the way, I think Unicorns of Love could make this Western approach. I do always feel sorry for Unicorns of Love because they don't really have the information gain as much as that they would like. They sent Gonzo down first this time around to try and pick up some of that, but it was immediately spotted by MADBULLS. So he's gone. And now they have to almost take a coin flip, or at least an educated guess if they've studied the VOD, whether they head down towards the west or down towards the east. Now they should see that the game board are moving quicker than before, so the western path will be safer for them.
MADBULLS with angles on towards Game Lord. Pioneer as well. They're going to be the ones to find those flushes. There you go. Now the team's trying to find those compounds. I was just about to talk about QODEX and Death Machine. It feels like these two teams are probably the two teams most likely in this central clump to go for one another right now. You see QODEX spotting players, moving, and Modi tries to get out the back there in the vehicle, and the spray does not follow him. PNL backs up instead.
That's an over-optimistic shot, in my opinion. I think he was caught off guard. He assumed that the player would stop, pick up NASA, and then move across on the side. Instead, Hamodi just instantly sends through, and Ultra finds the pick over towards PNL. So I would say that is a pretty abysmal start for QODEX there. Giving all the information away this early on does cause some significant problems. However, MUERTE on the off, as per usual, might be able to find some of these players are getting a little bit too over-aggressive. Does move off just a little bit. Tries to get behind them with the sight lines covered. That's interesting. I like that play.
Backing it up. QODEX down to 2 though, so their power very, very hampered. You can see the regroup coming through from Death Machine towards Woodson's position. MUERTE healing up. Maybe looking to come back into this one, but left alone now. There's no way you get your teammates back up. Felt like QODEX moved up to this compound, had a clean couple of shots onto a few of the players, and then just all died. I'm not entirely sure what happened.
Yeah, again, I would definitely say it was in part to PNL's beginning of that fight with just some missed sprays, and obviously I think it was Wadea earlier from Arabian Champions picking up Vito within Cave and their little engagement down there, and then Death Machine instantly pushed on that single knock, so they really weren't messing around. Death Machine not able to get too far, and a lot of Sanhoks with many teams around them, including TJB, kind of starting out their games very poorly for themselves. They have switched things up slightly, sending an additional player up towards the northeast with them. Eastern Stars being hampered by Big. However, some great shots been sent back their way, John.
Beast raining down the bullets to the players moving around them. Eastern Stars with a really, really solid start to the day for the first 2 games, but came in now last standing. That nade just a little bit long. It's really hard to land those nades exactly when you're playing over a bulge like this, but the re-knock over onto Mazzaro is good. Beast is low. The reposition from Miki, and he should have spotted that on his left. Will be aware of it. Looks for the challenge, and K-Make is not up to it. Now the reses can come through, and Big stay up as 4 against Eastern Stars, who have started off very, very well, but with that turn of events, no points on the game. They're going to be brought back down to earth.
Could have maybe seen something very different happen there, because you saw the idea in Keme's head, and I think it's the correct idea as well. He tosses it slightly uphill, so the nade will hit off the ridge and then bounce back down onto the rock. Difficult sending those grenades uphill in the first place with the rolls, but he predicts the roll, tries to go for it anyway, but it just zips a little bit too far over the top. The second is on target, but if that initial one hit, you're looking at maybe 2 knocks and a ton of damage over towards Mickey, and with Sway trying to still regroup with the team, doesn't get there in time. Maybe Keme is able to get 2 players back up again, and you have a very, very different approach to that engagement. So just unfortunate for Keme that he doesn't hit the initial grenade, because that could have been the change that they needed. However, Big do hold strong. Slightly interesting play there coming through from Big, considering they moved towards that north side and then down towards where Eastern Stars usually play. But I kind of expected Eastern Stars to move across the water much earlier here, John.
ARB lose 2 knocks towards Nexus, holding out Painan. Well, not in Painan, they're holding on the compound just to the north of it. ARB trying to leave, gets shut down very, very quickly. A nice flash onto Wadea there. Now ARB just on the one. Hamo seeing his teammate. Crawling across the open ground.
You got Na'Vi coming in from the Confluence compound. They're underneath boot camp now. As for Tixie's frontman, has a compound to play around with as well, looking down towards Take Aim Gaming, who is in the Crossroads compound at the moment. Very strong one to hold. Has some great walls around it to keep you nice and safe. Nexus leave Octavian behind, looking up towards Na'Vi's position. I think this is smart from Nexus. They realize that this is a very, very typical rotation from Na'Vi, one that they make almost every single game. So getting that information early and then sending away for Octavian, you know, great news for them. They've acquired exactly what they wanted to know, and now they can start to maybe play down towards the south a little bit more effectively. So MUERTE really don't want to get caught up in PIONER once again. Sure, Dadaev can usually heal out to a fairly decent position, but before it has been a case where a single player or a single team has just stalled their approach into the circle a lot.
Hamo surviving for ARB now. MUERTE just sweeping on through from the south side. Everybody's getting closer and closer in. I'll be interested to see where the analysts are going to be predicting here as well. I mean, you've got Take Aim Gaming on that compound in the middle. A lot of teams on the north really in danger from one another.
Meku does get flushed there, unfortunately. That's a knock from Take Aim Gaming, picked up by Pioneer. Now Pioneer might even want to put a chokehold on Na'Vi so they can't make their way through, because currently they are a little bit squished between these two teams. You can see XTEAM up towards the northeast. Death Machine still trying to control that eastern side, and 4 Romanian men, as per, down towards that southeast side, an awkward spot at the moment towards Quarry. Ruthless Esports should see some of these crossings. They have had a very, very dominant hold on this western side of Quarry for a long time. But that circle really does favour Take Aim Gaming and Nexus might even want to consider crashing into Take Aim Gaming early.
I feel like maybe, I mean, that certainly is a choice, but with all the teams moving in from the north, you've got to imagine that Take Aim Gaming are going to have a lot to deal with right now. And Nexus maybe just wanted to keep their heads down, get some points on the board. 4 Romanian men, they're going across the south side of the quarry, probably one of the safer routes right now. And actually, there are a couple of buildings on the far side that they could take up if they get that far. Tixie getting knocked. Na'Vi just getting taken down, and it feels like maybe it's back to phase 1 Na'Vi. They're getting found and just picked apart, not really being in these fights. They're just getting picked off one by one.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where a lot of teams have info on that now, where they're going to be watching that way, making sure that teams can't make their way through. A lot of the compounds were taken early. Robs is able to find himself the initial DBS, and that's 2 down. Remember, they lost Gonzo early, so this is a very doable engagement now for the guys from Game Lord. Icy takes down Reznov.
In come MADBULLS. They've got all the way from the north. They're crashing straight onto Nexus on the south side. And the MADBULLS already losing 1 and flushed immediately. Unicorn Love pushing into Game Lord as well as the zone envelops them on the north side. Game Lord win out the fight, but they're left at 2 and have a long way to go.
Speedy right there on the loose. Nexus decimate MADBULLS as they come in for the fast crash. Not able to stand up to the Nexus team there. They do lose 1, but that's about it. And I would say that's a very, very good engagement coming through from Nexus to hold off the MADBULLS. A lot of teams just creeping their way in. You see XTEAM on that northeast side starting to make their way down. Game Lord maybe thinking about moving, but being on the fast side of the circle, this is going to be rough for them because they will have to initiate the heal. There is 1 vehicle available though, so they might be able to just slip their way in, but it's a very similar position they play time and time again with just a few players. They find their way over towards the north side of Take Aim Gaming's compound and will be taken down more often than not, just coming out into the open.
Death Machine on the inside, Ruthless pushing through from the east side of the compound. Salazar and Pocus and Manu as well. First 2 already going down, but Manu's still kicking. And with 4 players of Death Machine, he's got his work cut out as well. North side of the road still occupied by Death Machine. There is a regroup for the backup. Manu, I think he's been spotted. will be in trouble with XTEAM as well. Pushes out wide. Ultra might prove to be difficult to deal with, but it's our happy to find it in the first place. MUERTE for Jason, Take Aim Gaming for Maxman, and NEXUS for Kalaris.
I think NEXUS is currently holding this spot. Like, they have really good oversight. Jason went to MUERTE. I don't know. I mean, they tend to heal off a lot of times. I wonder if they're going to send it all the way again, because they have found a lot of success over towards Sanhok. Goodness me, that nade, though, from Beg for Mercy. And Mercy is what they will be requesting.
That's quite the nade. Another one in through the window. And he sends in the Molotov, doesn't quite make it in there, and gets cut down on the cross by Take Aim Gaming, who is still occupying that central compound blank. With a hard southwest shift, though, they're right on the edge and might have to move, in fact, in just a couple of moments. They are bringing it all the way on in. XTEAM moving quite well against Pioneer for now.
NEXUS's compound now out of the circle, just about. Pioneer do manage to get a lot of their players up, but the nades are coming in thick and fast. How much time do they have left to keep moseying around inside the shack? XTEAM start to move up, but we'll just like to pass immediately through. That Molotov takes down a ton of them.
Here's a replay of Rob's holding out on the crash. I think, oh yeah, that's unfortunate. Crypto went down to the damage from hitting the wall on the bike. And then the next spray down was good. There's the burn over onto Andy. That is not what you want to be seeing. The tick is there. The spray down is good. NEXUS are able to claim that one. And Death Machine actually pushing up on the back here. Bigger moving in from the south side. This could be troublesome for NEXUS.
I mean, for NEXUS, they have done a fantastic job of holding out many, many teams. Big managed to get in with 4, though. This is a real change of pace for them, and a good change of pace, too. Speeding things up just a little bit. Pioneer, it was only a matter of time before that team did go down. They had expended so many medical supplies trying to weather the absolute bombardment coming through from XTEAM at the beginning. NEXUS now move across, 10 eliminations total, 2 players down on the outside, so a little bit more difficult to res these 2 guys up as well. Being zone 6, they have not the amount of time to do it.
NEXUS down with 2, but nades again from Mihi. It's kind of mean, but not quite long enough either. The res is not quite there just yet. Doran actually takes another... Oh, that's the flush coming through. They should be able to get this res. It feels like NEXUS haven't been resing when they probably could have been there.
I mean, they were under so much pressure, right? And they had to get out and in to those 2 players. So they were playing the off angles. And they were really just worried about dealing with the players on their eastern side. I think they've done a fantastic job to do it, but Take Aim Gaming now have eyes on. And it's just Sarah remaining in the building, who most likely will just go for the heals now, which would be the most efficient decision in terms of point gain for them, with already the amount of eliminations they've accrued on this match. MUERTE going full for it now. They saw they got the circle and now have decided to fully go for that push towards the chicken dinner.
Ooh, Beast moving across the hillside as they try and guard out the last pair from NEXUS. Take Aim Gaming lose 2. They already have a player flushed, which means there's only 1 player going, and it's Mind. Big hesitant to push all the way around in the meantime, and a nade from MUERTE draws their attention.
Yeah, problematic now. MUERTE have been starting to sweep around the side, all the way from Sami, by the way. You can see the amount of nades they've got in their hand. They're ready for a full-on warfare.
Narvalo? That was out in the blue. That was a player from out in the blue. Narvalo just sacrificed himself and took down Take Aim Gaming outside in the blue. The next shift comes through blank. We've got a couple of healers, 2 players out in the zone.
Yeah, ladders up though, which is nice. Get Rex still going before 4 Romanian men, and NEXUS with Sarah will be able to consolidate supplies on his side to keep him healing for a little bit longer. Circle moves up towards the top, in which case Big might want to move round, but MUERTE still pushing through, and Big need to really leverage this position they have on the high ground. These nades have to be clean.
Beast in a pivotal spot. SHOCKWAVE as well, able to find that first spray and get the flush very, very quickly. Nicely played. Bouncing it back, bringing them back into the numbers equal. MUERTE shimmying along the ridge. Big have been playing very passive in these final circles.
It's taken a while to get down here because, you know, they moved all the way out on the southwest bridge, moved past PIONER, slipped in underneath Quarry. So it's taken them a while to get into position, but they haven't been taking too many fights because of it. But it has got them into a chicken dinner spot here. They move all the way over towards the eastern side. Still, I would agree now with your sentiment that they are being quite passive on this. There is a rock that you can play on top of, and I think Beast is just slightly afraid of even taking that position. Sarah has to try and get towards this loot crate, but it looks so close, yet it is so far.
Oh, he has to pop another one. I don't think he's going to be able to make it. No, he's not going to make it, Blank. It doesn't have time on the ticks. Maybe running for the zone. I don't think so either. It's just not going to happen. Puts a molly in the sky, and it's curtains. Nexus down. Only 2 teams remain.
It's like a third place there. Both teams shimmying. Circle moves over towards the west. Will support the team of MUERTE. They can still play around with this, though. Keep repositioning. That's the main thing. They might be able to sweep on this northern side, trying to do it stealthily, but they're all stood up. This could be very dangerous. Striker's still not in the best of positions to take shots towards them. Nice molly, though. That is terrible news for Beast. Does get away from it. Might just be able to get the first aid off.
He won't go down. So close, but just able to survive the burn there. Swave moving forwards now. Will be first contact between him and Ingush. Dadaev out on that left flank. Swave just scanning that ridgeline. As Dadaev moves on up as well. They should know where each other are now. Swave stands up and immediately humbled for his trouble. Beast found as well, and just like that, goodness me, Big were decimated in those final moments.
Yeah, with snap of a finger, they are gone. They are out of it. MUERTE do take themselves a chicken dinner. They have been pretty effective on Sanhok if it's going for heal strats or going for the full-on win. I mean, it's very hard to predict at MUERTE sometimes because unlike a team like Na'Vi, who almost always makes that rotation throughout the Confluence compound, it is easy for a team like Nexus or Pioneer to keep tabs on that spot, right? But for MUERTE, on the other hand, moving up from Sami, you don't know whether they're going to leave a player outside the blue and try and cause chaos, or whether they're going to go for the chicken dinner. It leaves them kind of unpredictable, which is really the key moment there for them. Big, on the other hand, though, just not able to really put the hurt on over towards MUERTE. They did get that refrag, but that was about it. They seem scared at those final moments. I do think for Big, this is a map where they have dominated in the past, and to lose it downhill to MUERTE, that has gotta hurt.
It was kind of crazy, right? Like it felt like they had so much control, but they just weren't taking it. And it kind of was exemplified when they were spotted towards Take Aim Gaming. They were getting those knocks as well, and they didn't push around to try and flush that out. Instead, they just played together. It's, yeah, I don't like how Big played that final circle, and MUERTE somehow able to get the chicken dinner.
I think that, you know, Big tried their best in that situation, but MUERTE was putting out some fantastic utility, even the Molotov to send them back from what would have been a really incredible position for them. Getting the information on that and then Big having to reposition off the back of it allowed Dadaev to get in a really good sideswipe position. So when Big did make their move, Dadaev was 100% ready to clean up. So it's fantastic that Dadaev is not only the healer of the team. We've seen him multiple times before just sprinting out from the blue after he's healed for a little bit and then taking the chicken dinner. I think that was on the last game of phase 1. It's fun to see. I do like MUERTE as a team. They're an exciting one on Sanhok, and I mentioned this right at the start, John.
Well, they do give us another exciting game there to finish out the Sanhok of today's games. We're going to be going over to the analyst desk again.
Yeah, an interesting finish, actually. Claris, I know you had quite a bit, well, you and Max had quite a bit to say about when Big all kind of stood up and moved together in a group. I think that's kind of what was the final nail in the coffin for them, right?
Effectively. I mean, for them, they provide that little bit of extra information to then have that Molotov obviously land and then cause them a little bit of problems when it came to sitting north side of that circle. That then gives MUERTE quite a bit of information in terms of, okay, we've seen them all make this transition. Yes, they are fanning out now, but as Big, I think you still need to try and control more angles than that. in a bit more of a covert way before then MUERTE knows exactly where you've all gone and then started to fan out. So MUERTE was working with what seemed like just more information in some of those final moments.
Yeah, and what that shows to me also is that MUERTE is not just a team that's committing to the heel strat, right? This is a team that if they have an opportunity to go for the win, they will. Typically, I think Blank mentioned at the end there also, Dave is normally the one that goes for the heel strat, but it's good to see him actually in the late game, actually clearing some of the players of Big to assure they were going to get that chicken dinner. So yeah, MUERTE do have a little bit of a wider scope of what they can actually do on Sanhok, which is always good to see, but hey, Big, some points this game. I think it's been a long time since you saw Big actually make it on a podium finish, so second place for them, that's big to see coming out from them.
Yes. Could have used a different synonym there, Max.
I could have, but I didn't. And that was intentional.
It's fine. You committed to it. I respect that. Yeah, great to see Big finally get a decent performance here. Eastern Stars at the very bottom. They've had actually a pretty good day so far. I just wanted to bring them up in particular, having a rough time when it came to Sanhok, but so did MADBULLS, Navi, and a lot of other teams out there. Looking forward, though, into this match, I feel like it was interesting because we had completely different choices when it came to the desk. And if I'm not mistaken, Max, you had Tag, right? You had Take Game Gaming chosen, but it was just a zone shift that really punished them, right?
Well, look, I'm just scared after that last Miramar map with all the hard shift. I'm like, bro, it's going to hard shift north. It's going to be on Tag. So it's more of a gamble than anything there at the end. But yeah, if it did end up going on Tag's position, right, all the teams are going to have to go downhill. They held onto the trifecta. They had actually a pretty decent split, like information on the what was it, the boot camp hill, also the northeast position, which typically you have teams like PIONER and MADBULLS in that spot. And of course, if the teams had to leave the south, then they were just going to pick up all the teams going downhill. So it was a good position if it ends there, but the moment you have to move, and if you also get backfilled by some players of Game Lord, then it's pretty much done. But otherwise, they did held on to the position pretty well and got a few eliminations, so it's not all down the drain. They actually got something out of it.
I mean, we've been talking about it for a long time, right? The shrinks are too severe, and then there's too many hard shifts, right? So for a lot of these teams having to try and mess around with that, especially on a map like Sanhok, it becomes really difficult to even just make a transition. We've seen so many circles in this area in Sanhok for West Europe as a whole so far, and yet even Tag, who has what effectively is a great compound for this circle, for maybe like 3 circles before the eventual finish of the game, it just doesn't work out for them because it's just going too far away from them. It's difficult to deal with the slice of the pie that MUERTE has carved out for themselves, and even Big to a certain degree. I mean, me and Max were talking about if NEXUS maybe could have had the high ground instead of going down to that compound, but then they don't have any proper hard cover to work with, so you're caught in a lot of dicey situations here on Sanhok especially.
I think like if you're Tag, or if you're sitting here trying to predict a game, I think Tag had definitely one of the best positions in the zone when we were doing our predictions, right? And if you're them, like, why would you ever leave that compound to just guess that the zone might go a different direction? Just kind of unfortunate things didn't work out for them in the end. But what I am curious about is our damage actually in the last match. I want to see if this is Sanhok numbers, because we had a couple of teams pick up some good amount of eliminations, and not too Sanhok-esque. We've seen more Sanhok numbers than this before.
Anything above 2K is not a Sanhok number. All right, I'll give you that stipulation right there. So, and it was slightly above 2K. So admittedly to NEXUS, as much as they don't get themselves the victory here, this is still a really decent number of eliminations coming in for a Sanhok game. I mean, they were able to blast at everything from the compound that they had, even though it wasn't a high ground position. So I think overall, as much as they don't get the chicken dinner, 20 points is a win here.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, their position on East pretty much serves the purpose of a fort, right? All the teams are just going to try and bank on that position. It is so hard to breach if you don't have any cars, and I think that most teams did not have a car to close that gap. Death Machine didn't have anything for Romanian men. I think XTEAM was in a similar situation, so just going in by foot, and they just have the high ground, have also that coverage that is so important on the East, so it's pretty much done and dusted to secure it. But yeah, I mean, the high ground position also is pretty tough to hold on to, right? So I do understand why they didn't want to hold on to it. You could somewhat almost compare it to Potato Hill. It's a very big landmass, and to be able to split all your players away, if you get breached in a specific area, you might lose a player or two. So they're just like, you know what? We want to remain as a 4-man. Let's go in the compound, clear the East, and if we still have the 4 players, maybe we can push for a win.
Okay, well, you know, one team who did try to push for the win, but unfortunately fell short, is who we're going to be focusing on now, Big, and their player stats. I feel like we haven't been able to talk about Big much, at least in a positive note when it's come to this season of PMPL, but we have to shine some light onto them here as we see Beast coming in with a 584 damage. Pretty even split, though, between their 3 players. I think Swave did die, or did have a rough time early on, as we saw in some of those highlights.
Yeah, I think overall, again, you know, similar to what Nexus did with 20 points, I think, what, they got 23 points here to Big. 23 points is definitely a win for them and Sanhok. The problem for Big that exists currently is that their strength on Sanhok, that Blank was alluding to at the beginning of this game, has been eroded by the fact that you have so many strong teams now dropping on that Northwest Island. They're even having to be roaming sometimes when it comes to their drops on Sanhok. That takes away some of their edge. And even if a Northwest Circle does happen, which they were so adept at finishing, unfortunately, there are now bigger sharks there that are able to take that power. So, but this is a decent amount of points for this game.
Yeah, it is true. It is a decent game for Big, but the issue I still see for them is when you see Big, no, rarely on the few games where they do get a good result, it is mostly Beast that's there clutching it out for the team a lot of the time. I want to see more of Mozara and Mihi. Like, those guys were fantastic when it comes to previous seasons, and we barely seen them perform and get some good results. And so I think that we need to see the team step up. It can't just be a solo. We said it for many teams, and it also applies for Big. We need to see a team-wide effort, and if they do it, potentially that's going to be their redemption arc beginning very soon.
Well, we still have 2 matches left to go today, so they'll have a chance to redeem themselves or maybe have other players step up in the roster when we get to those matches. And we'll at least be getting to one of them right here, right now. Over to Erangel with John Allen and Blank.
It's Erangel 2. PUBG Mobile Boogaloo. That's right. We're getting into the second Erangel of the day. Blank, you feeling good for it? We had an Eastern Circle for the first time in a while in the last one. You expecting it to go back to basics?
I don't know, man. I'm ready for anything really coming into this game. I think Erangel's been a little bit tricky, a little bit saucy today, so I'm ready for something maybe a bit interesting, maybe a Stalber finish. I'd like to see that, but I don't know. I think that going back to a serious reality right now, you know, if we get an Eastern shift on this, potentially there's some differences that come through, but Na'Vi now in the game on that North George push. I mean, maybe that changes some things on that side. I don't think we're seeing Pioneer into this one, so South George should be free, so that South Hospital crossing for Na'Vi should also be similarly free. So there's a lot of different things that can go into effect here. I think for Pioneer, it was slightly unfortunate that, I think Jason brought this up before, with Na'Vi not playing on North George, it did allow them to switch up towards Box Compound and send over the top of Surveying towards Yaz. Game Lord were very prepared for something like that. They've been prepared in previous seasons to hold a push like that from Big in particular. So it's interesting. I think there's many different dynamics now happening because of the groups coming into Phase 3. And again, it's an adjustment that a lot of these teams will now have to make.
EJB dropping in with 3 in this game. The plane path left leaning. So Yasnai are a little bit hard to get to. Severny a little bit out of the way, but definitely achievable. Although getting there is going to be a bit tricky. I mean, these vehicle drops are going to be very hotly contested if they're contested at all. Game Lord may struggle to find that sort of resource to get all the way out to the northeast.
We can drop towards the roads, just the west side of Mansion. It will be a long drop, and they are not going to be quick to the ground, but they can make this push if they want to. I think some of these players are dropping out a little bit late on this top side, looking for other vehicles up towards school side. So yeah, you are right, John. It could be a little bit hairy for them as they hit the floor, but if they can get those vehicles and get gone, happy days. I will say one thing though for Game Lord is that Robs has really stepped up his game coming into Phase 3, which is lovely to see. His DBS play has been magnificent to say the least. Congrats, I love to see it. We like shotgun play over in the PMPLs at the moment. And another Eastern ship with a lot of water in this one as well. So we are really heavy on this side. With the plane path heading all the way over towards the west, it kind of baits a lot of these teams into general drop spots once again. So Nexus a little bit put out by this. Ruthless Esports is another team that I'd like to see maybe improve on this game. They haven't had to make these rotations as much, and it was something that they suffered from last season, which is the early rotates from Pachinki not working out, or waiting in Pachinki too long and making a late rotate which just ends in flames and smoke.
They were not prepared for it, unfortunately. Not quite displaying the power that they needed. Game Lord, they did drop out. You can see them starting to gather those vehicles along the roadside. Death Machine, the team closest on the north to them. Actually, Robson Akashi still going out as far as they can on the on the parachutes. They just touched down and they are going to grab a vehicle or two. And I imagine we're going to see them head up to Yasnaya, especially given this circle.
Yeah, it's almost predictable, right? That rotate up towards Yasnaya for Game Lord. It's a place they've controlled for a long time. No one's heading up there either, so they get to hold a lot of that space. I think today Game Lord's looked a lot better, and we can check their stats very quickly for today as well. I mean, 24 points, 12 placement points, and 12 limbs. Either way, I see that as a success for them, especially with only 2 matches played on the day. You know, being able to bring those elimination points in equal and in tandem with their elimination points as well is nice. You know, they're getting some aggressive plays, they're getting some work done, and on either side of the coin, things are looking pretty shiny.
TakeAim Gaming moving up north from their initial drop, potentially heading out towards Lipovka or even as far north as Kameshki if they want to be a little bit wild with it. Well, they are sailing past prison right now. On the east coast. Moving up and taking ground there early. Probably not the worst of ideas, Blank. I mean, Mansion as well, not occupied right now. TJB might be looking out that way to try and take it as a position. For this next circle, it's a good sort of base of operations. There's a couple of compounds you can hold that are sort of around it as well if you want to go for a little bit of a split where you can regroup towards, depending on where the shift comes. We'll see who's going to scout it out first. It looks like both TJB and TakeAim Gaming are scouting it.
I mean, you have to love TJB still taking a pretty wide split at the beginning of the game, even dropping with 3 players. I mean, nothing can stop these guys from doing the things that they like to do. And you know, if that is the way they want to play it, that's the way they want to play it. TJB is a team with potential that is just unrealized throughout all of these games so far. And it's one that I'm sad to see, you know, just dwindle away as we come into phase 3. Now this is our first day of phase 3, sorry. And you look at this tournament now, and before we were looking at a lot of the points, how many points were teams being able to get going in towards the finals, what lead was they able to get into the finals. Now we're looking at who is going to be in the finals.
Absolutely, because it does matter. Even if you get more bonus points than a team in the top 16 on the overalls, you're not going to make it in. You need to be in the top 16 teams on the overalls. I'm looking at teams like, I believe, teams like Big, for instance. 13 bonus points. They're in 15th place right now on the overalls. They're very, very tenuous. ARB champions, 17th place overalls, 17th on those bonus points as well, but only 1 bonus point behind Big. It's really, really difficult for these teams. They're going to have to really put in the shift. And at the moment, the bubble sits in 16th place at 306 points, Blank. And we're expecting that to go up by maybe around 100 to 150 over these next couple of days of games. So we're probably looking at a bubble of around, I haven't run the numbers on this, I'm just doing some napkin mathematics here, but we're probably looking at around 350 for the qualification spot in 16th place.
Yeah, some napkin numbers coming out here from John. And I think this is very interesting as well, because if we mentioned before, is because the points are a little bit squiffy at the moment, honestly. You get 7th place from Game Lord with 428. That jumps up to 6th to 478, and then it just flies upwards from there. And similarly, down towards XTEAM in last place, 148 to 19th. That is almost a 80-point jump there for 4 Romanian men to 227. There is a lot of flexibility all the way up to 13th place as it heads down from 320, 312, 310, 306 and 16, and then 283 and 246. So, you know, there is a lot that can change in the future, but I'm pretty sure the XTEAM, who we're looking right now getting torn apart by MADBULLS, will almost definitely not make it into the finals.
It's going to be a very tricky road for them, and yeah, it's highly unlikely. It would be about a 300-point week for them necessary, which is where we've seen only 1 team a week get that, and this is not the caliber of team that's going to be able to achieve that, not in its current state. They've had glimmers of hope. I mean, this is the X team that last season was able to get one of the elimination record wins, right, of the entire season on that Miramar game that will go down in the history books. But after that, they kind of fell off despite their potential. And I mean, we expected maybe Beg for Mercy to start to stand up, and it just hasn't happened yet.
I think he has been doing work for the team. I think he has been that point man. But yeah, when you say fell off, literally, it was a case of a hole opened up beneath them and swallowed them because they went right down towards hell in terms of numbers. They just weren't able to pick the pace back up again. And that game was just a massive false positive for us where, you know, they did hit that record elimination count, but it just didn't translate for the rest of the season. And is an unfortunate mark on the XTEAM history as well because, you know, they had greatness in them, yet I've never been able to replicate that Miramar.
Maybe one day they shall. But today is not that day, blank. They are having the worst of it. Now, on the West Coast, they are very far away from this next circle. You can see teams start to group up a little bit north. Everybody left that military island. No drama there. And seemingly, neighbours are friendly for now. The neighbourhood watch, not a lot to do at this stage, but I imagine that their work's got to be cut out for them in the coming minutes.
Still got heads down towards that southeast side. Not too much bother for a lot of these teams, considering most of them are already centered up towards this area. You know, as areas become more and more clustered, there is going to be more infighting, and this area is relatively open. A lot of times it's just tree lines that will give people some success. Prison, obviously a position you don't particularly want to ever play in underneath, but that will cut out a little chunk of the map as well. Shelter, similarly an area just to hold, and there's a few compounds here and there that you might just be able to play. Na'Vi, right now you can see that this is not open ground up here. This is hills and also mountains, considering right next to Stalba with this team at the moment. They're still making their rotate in. And I will say, if memory serves me well, you know, this is one of the positions where Na'Vi has been able to do the most significant amount of work the most of the times on Erangel as they sweep down towards prison side. They're very, very good at holding that position. I wouldn't be surprised to see them head towards northeast prison and just play the rock edges.
Nexus caught out by GK first on the outward scout. And Exo goes down to it. Traded off actually by MUERTE, so not even a trade from Nexus as they careen into one of the shelters. Leaving their buggies down low, they want to be able to bug out as fast as possible. But they lose a player on the cross.
It's not the best of days for them. Flyke now looking outwards. MUERTE been a team that has just massive upswings and then small downswings. I don't think they're able to hit the highs that they've been able to show us as many times as they would like. They definitely have been a surprising team from us, and a team that I'd love to learn more about myself, as they are kind of one of my favorite underdogs. Yes, they've not always got the most huge amount of points throughout every single phase, but they're still here. And they're still making some steady improvement. And 11th place phase 1, 4th place to phase 2 with 268. And today in phase 3, they've already been able to put up 33 points over 2 games, which is in 2nd place, just beneath Eastern Stars with 43 with 3 games played. So already a good result, and this would be the best timeline if we saw MUERTE just go from strength to strength, and we saw them in a podium finish at the end of phase 3.
Here's the thing though, right? We've only played 2 or 3 games of this phase, and it is, sure, it's great to be in the lead this early, but it's not about getting the leads in this early. It's teams that, for me, are going to be scoring 10 to 12 points on average per game that are absolutely going to blow everyone else out of the water in the long run, which is kind of what you look at. And over a 24-game set, that's going to put up 240 to sort of 280 points on the board, which will see you very, very safe, a good points total. So I'm looking at teams like VIRTUS.PRO, who have started off well, fairly consistent in terms of their their games. Actually, to be fair, even Big, despite their maybe hesitance in those final circles, they've done quite well in the games that they've played so far. And of course, PIONER, just keeping it on going. Maybe not standout, but they have got 28 points over 3 games. And that is pretty close to that average, despite going down fairly early in a few games.
Na'Vi, no surprises there. Head towards the northeast side of prison, play the rock face. This has happened many, many times in the past. I'm glad to see them engaging in it now. This is very, very typical Na'Vi. It's a position they've done very, very well from before. See if they can pull off a similar type of result that we see from before from them in this game, and how they'll adapt to the lobby that is surrounding them.
Ruthless Esports trying to swing past TJB, who have been pretty aggressive on their holds with 3. Lin first face right now, and look at a spray down towards Pocus, who's just trying to get away from it. In the meantime, Ulysses goes down as well. Manu under pressure, but they just get away from anything to do with TJB on this west side of prison, on these mountains. TJB effective holding on this.
Yeah, pretty laser accurate on that UMP. Does fall off a little bit on the long range, so Lin's not able to get as much damage as he would have liked through there. With the Scar, maybe a little bit better, but again, I would say with the Scar, you are seeing a lot of kickback on that thing. So at long distance, not as effective as you would see at M4, which is very easy to control at those distances. Mickey, oh dear me. Oh. The crouch for Robs, he is angry about that one.
Puts a nade in the sky and gets that one done. Nicely found there for Robs, you were saying. Actually, hang on a minute, that was Victor. Victor's putting nades in over the top as well. I thought it was Robs coming on back with a bit of retribution for missing that duck shot, but certainly not a sitter, as Victor will be able to find the nade. Robs uses the opportunity of the reduced vision from Big to be able to take that. Oh dear. That's a bad nade from Narvalo. Pops it right onto his teammate. Now Game Lord are severely hampered on their push, with the reses coming through as well on the inside for Big. Mickey starts to swing out wide, wants to find the players on the out. Akashi falls as well. They flush out Robs on the close. Victor now under pressure as 2 players flooding out for Big. Moving around the sides, Mickey is low, but Victor falls first, and all of the Big players are still alive. They are keeping this average up. They are keeping on going. Consistency on the minds for Big.
I don't have many words to say there. I think Robs is trying his little heart out, and Narvalo has seemed to have had a huge drop-off between seasons. This guy does not look like the Narvalo from last season, who was just unreal. I think that I don't know what's going on, team. We need to have a conversation with them. Northeast shift there. Na'Vi pleased with this one. TJB aggressive though, immediately move into spots. Narvalo's moving down towards TJB's position. They might just spot this one, but they're already in the vehicles moving away to MUERTE. They're all towards the southwest side and perhaps are looking for a south cut-in, but there are a lot of teams down here at the moment, and this is a dangerous push for MUERTE. Let's see if they can pull it off.
MADBULLS not quite able to stop that rotation, and it's a difficult angle to find. I mean, they're playing down the ridge. The MUERTE rotating pretty intelligently, I would say, around this headland. And looping past Shockwave as well. A triple prediction for Na'Vi, and you can kind of see why with the circles as they are, but Big want to take another fight this time around. Swave gets shut down as Nightmare's on the backside there. Mazzaro shuts it out as well. Big, again, stay alive. 5 eliminations now. They had a good game last game. They're looking to turn it around for another this time around. 4th zone comes in, and they will be able to get that res, but they need to stay ahead of the blue for the time.
Yeah, player would immediately have to run as that res goes through. There's the Molotov onto English, who won't be able to keep himself doused through that one. English does go down. Shockwave as well from the distance. Crypto finishes off the final player there with some help from Shockwave off in the distance. Unfortunately, although it was a pretty decent push from MUERTE, it was always a case of how many teams are going to be on this edge side towards the south for them.
MADBULLS spotted. Yeah, I mean, you're right. They swung past, what was it, 2-3 teams on that south side, but finally they came a cropper at the Unicorns of Love's feet. That was just too much to ride on past, unfortunately for them. But the teams that they swung past now trying to make that move as well. Unicorns of Love have more to hold out, and Shockwave make it a little bit easier, knocking themselves.
Yeah, you wonder if there were shots taken down towards their position, so he just had to jump out the vehicle. I mean, it's better to get knocked on the floor than it is to take the vehicle explosion, in which case it's just an instant flush there, and you are down to 3. So they can pick that player back up again. NEXUS. Octavian's out in the blue itself. They have 2 players who headed forward. I think that's a split caused by Shockwave themselves. ARB is looking to make the rotation up towards the north side. Again, Prison does cause a slight problem towards that southwest side of the map. And Na'Vi moved away from the rock faces towards a compound that is much more comfortable for them to play in.
Trazen gets the knock onto Doran through the smoke there. Sarah blooms another, but the sprays are still coming on in, and teammate to fall. Only Octavian now left for NEXUS. Na'Vi forcing their way through and holding out right now in the center against ARB really effectively. Not even taking a knock just yet. I haven't seen one come up in the elimination feed just for the moment. But with these 2 players down on the forefront, it's all on Octavian to keep NEXUS in. But with the blue zone ticking as it is, it's marching forwards. No first aids either. Limited stims, has 4 energy drinks there. And 10 bandages, should be able to get back to full HP. But with a long march ahead of him as well as the circle shifts north, it's going to be even harder.
I mean, for Na'Vi, like, Arabian Champions made what I would say is kind of the numbers play, right? It's not very likely that there isn't a team within that compound already, so you just send for it. There's no smokes available. But with Na'Vi being there, Arabian Champions just send caution to the wind and try and take one of the strong spots in the circle. Fortunately, there is a team playing it, in which case they just get blown to bits by the nades that are sent out the window from Na'Vi, which are very well set up, by the way. Not a lot of room to play in this circle going forward. Octavian, this is him from earlier, taking down some players from MADBULLS before he was left out in the blue, all on his lonesome.
Did get taken down as well later on, unfortunately. That was a really nice spray to the back of the buggy. That is a fairly pinpoint spray, so good on him. Unicorns of Love down to 2 on the south side. Have to make the break north. Na'Vi's compound now not in the next zone blank.
Yeah, there's a little bit in it, in which case they'll be able to throw smokes out the window with relative cover. But again, this is kind of classic Na'Vi. They'd like to take as many shots as possible down towards the south, not allowing teams to get behind them, because if they want to win this game, they know they need to move towards the north. VP making a wild play towards the center, and TJB with 3 do put a stop to that one, with 2 of their players now going down, with Chulika and Yankee just out in the open, in the trees.
Narvalo temporarily teaming up with Na'Vi there to take shots over towards Death Machine, who are being punished on that southwestern edge. Same for Ruthless. It's just really, really hard to move. TJB still going, as you say, but Lin shut down in the middle of the circle. The rest of the team going to now have to figure out how to get further through. Ruthless Esports trying to duke it out with the last player from Death Machine, and will be able to find the shot. Manu through the smoke, has a first aid to play with, but the blue zone is right on his back, needs to get it through. It's just going to come on in, but Zittel has the bead, has the angle, and that's it. Hang on a minute, that was Narvalo. He pinches it away.
Narvalo actually some good shots at the moment, really punishing a lot of teams down towards that southwest side. Na'Vi, now think about how do they get into this circle, and Big will have to reevaluate how to finish out these games. They have 4 players. They're in one of the best positions to make this happen. Na'Vi do have to cross a road, so for them, they're really biding their time. If they get a south shift towards them, it'll be a little bit easier. They'll have some more time to play around with. GK first is spotted, immediately swings the feet back out behind the tree, but it's Zittel who goes down to a nade from Michi. A knock actually coming through towards Big, which will delay them, and it's a nasty delay as well. Luckily, the circle is in their favor, and Kitsune drives out, tries to acquire some information. Not a lot given his way, though.
Narvalo dies soon. There's no way he gets away from this. GK first spots him almost immediately as soon as he peeks, and the blue zone will crunch him in about 30 seconds. As you can see, it is ticking away. The spray, though, from GK First did give away position, and look at me, he's repositioned there. Maybe looking for some oversight onto GK First. Na'Vi making their play now. The circle moves up to the north of them, and Matic taken low. Will need to heal just a bit. Difficult progression for them into VP's territory, into GK First's overlook.
Yeah, luckily for Na'Vi, even though this is open ground ahead of them, it's really that road that caused the most problems, but with them being so collectively calm within this compound for so long, they should have a few smokes to play around with. I've been able to get relatively far across the road. Now, there's so much hard cover ahead that you can play within. There's rocks, there's trees to mess around with, and Tixi will put down the snake in the grass of GK First, and now they start to move up. Yankee spots over towards Kitsune, but again, cover found, and Yankee has to reposition, but maybe into dangerous waters.
Sweeping is when Na'Vi shine, or certainly have done in the past. Can they start to stand up yet again in the face of the duo from VP and the quad play on the north side from Big, the only other team with 4, everybody else on duos. Na'Vi potentially looking to move around this eastern side and just corral everyone in. The nade from Kitsune over onto Yankee, an excellent start.
Yeah, fairly gorgeous there. Will eliminate maybe some teams there. Mickey does send out to pretty wide angle towards the ridge side. Has to be careful. He does get taken down. It's kind of game over. Reznov still going. Will get knocked by Tulika though.
It's just pouring on through towards the Unicorns of Love as they go down. 1 player for VP, 2 players from Take Aim Gaming. Na'Vi really have to think about where they're going to move now, because Beast has oversight, the rest of Big as well, moving through. This is a more aggressive hold than we saw them on the Sanhok take.
Yeah, I mean, they understand that they have positioning, so they have to take advantage of that. 8 eliminations so far for them. Tulika spots out Swave. He sees the nade in hand. Has to be a little bit careful about this one. 1 HE left. Doesn't want to reveal position too much. This could be on target if Swave gets back behind, but immediately moves out the way. This is where the spray from the M4 maybe comes into play, but I think that without the nade spotting his position, giving those hit markers back, he is more than likely just going to sit around in the grass.
Look at that smoke train. Take Aim Gaming playing with 2 right now on the eastern edge. Na'Vi moving a little bit further westerly, and look at this next circle. Hang on a minute. If Mazzaro gets... He's not going for the spray. Toffees is waiting. That was a sitter. That was an absolute sitter. They chose not to do that to not give away position.
I think for Take Aim Gaming, they still realize there's a player from VP close by. If they take shots over towards Big, potentially Na'Vi takes that moment to just rush on through, in which case they can maybe ladder up to a 3rd or a 2nd. But now time does get a little bit short. Tulika being the rogue here in the grass, but Tixi should have spotted the legs there, but hasn't.
Matic goes down as well, pulls the pin on an nade. Tixi in danger right now that he knows not. Happy behind the shack, needs to be careful. There's a nade, but it's short. Over to the left, Tulika still going. Players from Na'Vi are falling like flies blank. Tixi, Meku, last standing. Taken down as Tulika finally starts to play a part in this engagement. A nade over the top takes it away, and this game is being given to Big on an unfortunate crash from Na'Vi. Can they get the reses in the back, keep themselves alive at 3? With 1 minute left on the crunch, they need to do something. Tulika finally takes down Take Aim Gaming. The solo from VP doing so much work, but finally spotted out. Beast deals with it. 3 players from Na'Vi now against 4 from Big, and Na'Vi are low on the health bars.
Extremely gorgeous play there from Tulika, just to sit back and maintain calm there. Nades have to come through. They need to find at least an initial knock, and there it is. Meku starts it off strong for them. That's exactly what they needed, and Mickey has to reposition. They were playing 2-2, and this is bad news for them. Nades come back, though, as Big keep pulling them back out the pocket.
Big can give a little bit of ground here. They have got control over this next circle, and the circle is pushing Na'Vi forwards. They can bide their time slightly. Beast has to be worried about his left flank. He does not have info, but he knows that Meku's there. If Na'Vi stand up and get this spray, Beast is in danger. In it comes.
Whoa,
Kitsune! Kitsune is there on the off angle. That's what they were looking for. A good trade, and now it's 2 versus 3. Na'Vi can move forwards. Mazzaro being suppressed. Meku down in the dirt again. Needs to move around the side, and they're operating as Matic and Meku both can, but Matic falls, and now it's just the Meku's play, and Mihi will be able to deal with it. Big claim the chicken dinner that they were denied on Sanhok against Na'Vi, who put their best foot into that one.
Disgusting jump peaks coming through from Tixi to enable Kitsune on the flank. No one saw that one coming, but luckily Big's able to reposition. All that comes down to us is TakeAim Gaming's approach, and Tulika, goodness me, taking down Tixi was really the kicker for Na'Vi. Again, stalled at the final hurdle, and Big just kind of played out that last game much more cautiously, but with some aggression as well. They knew they needed to send out some wide angles. They knew they needed to hold a little bit more because they got crunched on Sanhok, and they were not prepared to allow that to happen here on Erangel.
No, they were a lot further forward in the circle. And to be fair, it did shift their way a couple of times as well to allow them to have that position. But they played from the north side. They did get involved, and it did feel better than the Sanhok.
I think for TakeAim Gaming, they had a lot of opportunities to cause some real issues for Big, but instead opt to look towards Na'Vi, who are further down the hill. Yes, it doesn't work out for them because, again, we cannot understate the amount of work that Tulika was able to do in that final circle. And, you know, it is great to see Tulika right now from VP because he was one of the great players that was backing up Old Boy before, didn't have the best of phase 2s, and now is coming to phase 3 looking a lot more refreshed personally. And I am happy to see that because VP desperately needed another player to kind of lean on a little bit more. You can't just lean on Old Boy all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they needed that little bit more energy, that power, because otherwise they're just coming in and they're not prepared for it. They need to put their best foot forward, and that's exactly what you want to see from a team. But it is big to take the chicken dinner on Erangel.
Speaking about putting your best foot forward, that's why we're here. It's these guys, as we're going to break down that last match as Big took a victory, a much-needed victory, and have now been able to put up solid back-to-back performances. Your gentlemen, Max in particular, Big, are they back?
I mean, that's the thing, right? Big, if they can have that confidence boost and they can potentially try and do what we saw in phase 2 from Game Lord, and they can try and build a little bit more of momentum, this is looking great. This is good for Big. And don't forget, because of the reset, right? This is a chance where they could be super high in the rankings, actually increase their overall rankings, and maybe get as many points as possible before heading in the finals. So, yeah, fantastic 28 points in this game. And I think you mentioned a few times, right, Kalash, that their rotations this game were actually very solid, like really good to see from Big this game.
Yeah. 5 reasons why CIS teams hate them. Upcoming right now. No, ultimately, I like the Big's movement. They moved, obviously, from where the usual drop spot. They go down to Heaven, really priority compound. And the most important thing for me is that they clear out the 2 that aren't necessarily too much of a threat, unfortunately, for them. In XTEAM, who had already been wounded earlier in the match, but they clear them out. They go a little bit away from the circle. And once they clear them out on that north side, they have huge area to play with on the north side, knowing that it's very unlikely a team's going to backfill on them. They've already watched MADBULLS try and move from the west and then eventually kind of move a bit south down into VIRTUS.PRO, so they know that most of the threats are not going to be looping around that north side. So they really carved down a nice area for themselves.
Yeah, and also with all those rocks, and also I think they even had a crate at some point. With all the angles, it was just so hard to be able to steal that game away, even though Na'Vi put a very good foot forward to try and get that game under their belt. But unfortunately, the angles were just too many to count, and Big were able to come out on top. So yeah, great chicken dinner, but the question is, that always we have for these teams that have a really good step up for one game, can they keep it up? And unfortunately, right now, it doesn't seem like that was the case in the previous phases. I would like to see if they can try and get some consistency on board here.
I do wonder, though, if Tulika wasn't there from VIRTUS.PRO and downed and finished off Tixi, or actually, he didn't get finished off. It was someone else. It was a tag player. I wonder if that would have changed how that game would have finished, because as we were watching, we saw Tixi see Tulika on our screens. We could see his leg through, like, some pixels through all the brush, but his eyes were focused otherwheres, if that's even technically a word. But, you know, we wonder, like, what would have happened if Tixi saw him. He got the elimination, got the point, and then it obviously turns attention towards the other tag player.
Yeah, if you're able to see the best foot in that moment, then you can quite easily, you know, eliminate that threat and keep on going. But unfortunately, not a case. It's really hard sometimes to spot them in this kind of little shrubberies that are going on, the foliage that's around there. And ultimately, Snakes could have quite easily been the absolute spoiler of this game. And in fact, for Na'Vi, they probably were. They weakened them so severely and denied them push into a better position on the circle that, yeah, it was going to be Big taking the proper high ground strength.
Yeah, and Tuleka also did have a really good impression, really good foot forward, I would say, in this game in particular, to try and actually put VP a little bit higher in that game and try and surprise a few players around them. So yeah, VP still present despite not getting a win, at least getting some decent points.
Yeah, some decent points for VP, but Big putting up some massive points. See what I did there, Max? I changed it. I changed the word. I used a different one. I used a synonym. As we were to jump into their player stats. We were talking before, though, when we looked at Big, it was Beast, typically the one stepping up for the team. Is it going to be him yet again? And it's actually not, Max. So you got to see some other players step up around him.
Yeah, really good to see Sway get himself a little bit of a foot forward here, able to get himself the 5 eliminations on this game. I mean, that's the thing, right? Beast was always there, popping off, getting himself some good frags. But yeah, Mozaro in particular, I wanted to see him. Mihi, you know what, hey, I'm seeing Mozaro and Swave. I'm not going to ask for too much, so I'm completely stoked with them being able to perform as a team like this and actually being able to close off the game as a 4-man crew. So yeah, I think this is amazing from Big, but I want to see more of them potentially in the long run. But luckily enough, they are stepping up at the start of the phase. This is the best time to do so, so the timing's on point.
Yeah, Max, you know how you mentioned earlier on about, you know, this is the best, I mean, you did it twice now, I think, the best time to step up here at the beginning of the phase, but it works on 2 different fronts. It works on the fact that you get points in phase 3, right? If you're first place at the end of phase 3, you get 20 points. But also, at the end of phase 3, the overall points come into effect, where depending on where you're ranking there, you get extra points. So somehow, if they can perform really well here, they actually could like double down and get quite a few extra points going to the finals. This is the perfect time for them to step up. The question is, can they maintain it, obviously, going forward? And when we say that this team has been struggling, we're going to actually show you that in form of some stats. We're going to take a look at their average performance today versus their average performance in the entire event to really give you guys at home an indicator of why we've been kind of harsh on Big and why it's a surprise to see them step up now. Because this team has performed well in the past. They haven't performed well in this event so far, but they have a great opportunity to set themselves up perfectly for the finals if they can just continue this performance now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I was a tracker and I was looking for the paw prints in the mud, unfortunately for Big in the first phase or two, they're kind of a bit wishy-washy. There's a bit of rain, can't really see them through the thick foliage either. But now, with this kind of performance, looking at it, you're going to see it in the average numbers. Geez, is this a bit of a step up from these couple of games? It's a massive step up, and it's kind of what we expected from them in terms of their previous performances, but maybe it was going to take a little bit longer to gain some of that traction here in this lobby, considering the power that's coming from some of these other teams. Whether or not this is an anomaly is yet to be decided, I will say, because you could quite easily have a roster like this, gain themselves some fortunate spots, and then be able to run away with it, which they have done here in these past 2 games. So let's see if this continues.
I think can even just use Sanhok as an example of they are willing to make adaptations, right, to the lobby, to the groups that's going to be happening, right, to try and improve and get hopefully a little bit of a better impression going into these matches. So yeah, I think Big have been willing to make these adaptations, and if this is the result of these changes, right, I think just keep it up, guys, and you still got a lot of days in this third phase to try and potentially rank up, and as you mentioned already, Jason, like get those points before heading into the finals. They needed to catch up, so it's now or never for them.
That's the great thing though as well, Jason. It's like, because of the phase structure and because you can garner some points here and there, imagine if Big all of a sudden got first place in this phase. You get yourself your 20 points, all of a sudden you're right back in the action, right back in the opportunity to be able to get yourself a decent spot in that grand final. So still lots to play for as the phases continue.
Yeah, and this is the perfect time to kind of hit that high on your team, too, going into the finals potentially in the last phase. You can brush off what happened in the first 2 phases. Really quickly, though, on the graphic we just saw there, I think for me, one of the biggest things we've seen, though, is, was it a 5 elimination on average bump up for them so far between all days and today? I feel like that has to give them so much more confidence, because for me, it seemed like they had no confidence to win any of these firefights. It seems like they didn't have the mechanical skill that we know they have to be able to fight any team, because they were losing consistently. They weren't able to get eliminations. And I think for me, hopefully, and for them, it's a big confidence boost that they need to be like, yeah, we can handle this, and we finally have the hang of things when it comes to team fighting.
I still think maybe in these lobbies, square one on some of these battlegrounds might still be one of the biggest problems for Big. If you think about Severny not necessarily having a drop backup spot for Erangel, if you think about Sanhok, because Severny's hard to rotate from, if you think about kind of Sanhok, them dropping on Northwest Island, maybe having to pivot a little bit from that as well, that's not a great block as a starting position either. So for 2 of the 3 battlegrounds, I think they're not in the most amazing starting positions, but if their prowess in the game can carry them through it beyond that, then yeah, maybe they'll have a good phase.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll continue to see here as we're heading into our final match of the day, and they will be playing indeed with John Allen and Blank to bring all the action here from PMPL.
One more game today. Can Big continue to run strong on the first day of Phase 3? And is it enough to keep them safe in those top 16 for the finals? We'll have to wait and see for the rest of the games of this phase. We've still got about a week or so left of this phase, but they are starting things well, and that's exactly where you want to be.
That's right, John. I mean, you told me off, though, for MUERTE, calling them too early. All right, so I'm going to tell you off right now for calling Big too early now. It's that I'm looking for teams that are able to put up a 10-point average consistently over 6 days. We just cannot call it, yeah. No, but for reals, I think for my point to MUERTE, they have been putting some good games so far, but for Big, this is a real change of pace for them. I think that is the main thing to take away from these last couple of games, is that this is something new coming from Big. This is something where they're feeling a little bit better about it. I do think this is a team that really vibes off momentum coming into these games because they have just not been able to find it. One thing that is absolutely important to bring up is taking a second place on Sanhok in a game where you really thought you should win it, and then going over to the next match and taking the victory again. You know, that's a massive vote of confidence. Oftentimes when you take a second place again, it's more of a situation like, right, well, now we need to reevaluate things once more. But if it's not broken, don't fix it. And if it doesn't look broken in this case, I don't think they will either. So they'll continue running with this, and hopefully it brings them more success because they feel like they've found the winning formula.
Playing path very, very central on the map. Maybe a little bit north on the lean, but should make most places fairly accessible for everyone. You can see the teams not playing. MADBULLS, NEXUS, XTEAM, and RUTHLESS all not participating in this game. They played their games today. They get a little bit of a break until tomorrow. But these 16 teams will still have one more left to play. Na'Vi out towards La Copereria, as the plane path just allows them to eke out the edge there. Unicorns of Love out a little bit earlier, but a split potentially from Gonzo, as I think he spotted a vehicle on the road.
Yeah, we'll jump out to pick that one up. With El Pozo being free without MADBULLS playing this game, this is definitely a pickup for one team in particular. It looks like Na'Vi would rather not be in La Copereria this time around. I do pick up El Pozo for themselves. MUERTE shifting position. Did look like they were heading out that way, but now we'll move down towards the south of La Driera. This works out well for them. They can pick up one of the valleys, especially with this being a very heavy southwest shift here, John. This really works out just fine.
It really is that heavy, heavy southwest shift. I don't even want to talk about it, but we kind of have to a little bit, because this is phase 3. You know, it was an opportunity to just go, you know what, we're going to refigure this one out. But it's just like at this point, it's just not good. Like it's not good all before that. But you know what? Every single time we see this map, these two teams, ARB and Death Machine, they drop on Miramar and they fight each other.
You know what I think we should do? I think we should take this fight seriously. And if we pretend it is the fight that would determine which team goes into the finals, it will be very fun.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ARB are right on the precipice, but Death Machine are holding them out at the moment. They're winning that engagement. Blank, this could see them safe into the finals. Oh my goodness me. First knock over to Wadea, and they definitely don't want to have this happen to them in such a crucial, pivotal position.
That's right, John. Obviously, it's going all to hell's bells at the moment with Nisa taking a huge amount of damage. Our Happy hits the floor, will take a ton of damage as well. And finally, Hamodi makes his way to the fight, realizes this is an extremely important moment for them. Ultra playing around the smoke, gets back into cover. Hamo on the side now. We'll pull out the AKM, looks down towards the other building and the balconies. Ultra heads upstairs. Not a lot of meds to play around with here. This could be all going wrong at the beginning of the game on Miramar.
Would be disastrous for their tournament run, Blank. Jamar's pushing on in over towards our Happy, who's already down. But Hamodi with a crucial flank from the top rope there. Absolutely pile drives that one. Really nice find into the window of the apartment block. And Death Machine can stay alive at 4 and keep their hopes alive too.
It's a little bit longer. Hamodi taking down his doppelganger. Hamodi from Arabian Champions, and now Death Machine maybe think this is the time to push. Our Happy still low, hasn't found any medical supplies as of yet, so really, he's only useful as cannon fodder. You wonder if Hamodi's got anything left on board, just bandages. He tries to bring himself back up to full HP, and Death Machine slightly reluctant to push on this one, John.
Ultra leaning on out, watching the players there. It's slow, it's drawn out for these two teams. They are really going through the ringer on this. Hamodi pops the Molotov over the top through the window. Nice find, but no one there to get repositioned just yet. Death Machine pull back. They've already found that first knock. Nobody around them on the hills just yet.
He has one Molotov left, but maybe a slight waste of utility there. Didn't really get anything done. No one pushed off the back of that Molotov, so they just weren't able to find what they were looking for. NEXUS gets towards the top side, will keep himself hidden, tries to remain silent as he makes these moves. And jumps off the side. I mean, maybe this was a fake out, John. We never know.
Wow, what a cunning play. To fake that one out. I'm not sure about that. Either way, Hamodi.
Someone's upstairs. It's a real good play there.
Oh, I get it. Hamodi still yet to reposition for Death Machine. Just was on the overlook right now. ARB holding with 3.
And they will continue to hold.
Third time's a charm. They're doing it again. Blank. It's the big play.
They have no idea. They're so confused. Is he above? Is he below? NEXUS continues to cause problems for him. Now, he's just got to get off the side, onto the balcony. Maybe this is the one. Slowly jumps across. Now he's in position. Arabian Champions holding all angles to themselves, but not doing too much for them. Both teams realize how important this engagement is to them. Our Happy finds a grenade.
So I hate this so much. What are they doing?
John, they're trying to make this fight happen. Okay.
Oh, I don't think they are, Blank. I think they're trying to make this fight not happen, if I'm honest.
Both these teams are extremely nervous. This is a huge moment in both of their careers.
Nobody's ever done this.
They can't let the sound
Nobody's ever done this in the history of PUBG Mobile.
Slip through their fingers here, so they will have to take this one a little bit slower, John. No one wants to do anything.
I didn't think it was possible to take this one slower. But somehow, ARB find a way to lose to Snails on the race.
A 7-minute engagement so far where we could have been looking at the map stream, analyzing the rotations, but this fight is just too important to miss.
Oh, so much hangs in the balance.
Ultra playing the exact same position he did before where he got naded from. But this time he's opened the door. He knows he's safe.
Oh, what an adjustment. Cerebral in the engagement.
Team Doom rotating.
Oh my God.
All right, back to normal. We are in phase 3, day 1. This is not as important as it sounded before. If you're just tuning in, that was purely because we see that happen every single time. We thought we'd make it a little bit more fun. I'm sorry if we confused you at all there. Please don't be. We've explained ourselves. I hope that is reason enough.
I don't apologize.
Okay, that's fine. Well, we've got one apology and one non-apology, and that cancels one another out. So we're all back to just a normal level playing field.
That's right. Team Doom moving on the south side right now, south of Los Leones, southwest. Oh, okay, hang on a minute. Whoa. Oh, he's moved. And stopped.
NEXUS, in fact, even dropped off the top side. He got into the balcony. I think they have an idea of this, though, John. NEXUS moves in towards the fridge.
A reposition.
Cool.
It's happened. And they want to go for the door frame. Oh, they're actually fighting. The guns are starting to fire. They've figured out how to shoot them, and he's going to shoot through the door. Hamo goes 1 for 1 on the trade. Death Machine move through and actually get a flush. Goodness me, this fight is developing.
Now just Jammaz. I mean, Hamodi downstairs versus Hamodi upstairs. You can see the circle over there. We'll see where it pops over to because this fight may have to conclude soon. Doesn't move too much. Okay, we can stay remaining focused on this one. Hamodi with Thompson may look for Hamodi number 2.
Hamodi 1, Hamodi 2. Found them all black and blue, but it's Harpy around the side. Finally! After what is it, 8.5 minutes, ARB champions go down and Death Machine win out on the engagement. It's 9 minutes on the fight. Wow. What a game.
What a game. That is half our time gone on one engagement. Now, let's take a look at the other teams within the lobby, and we'll talk you through the rotations. Currently, Unicorns are low coming down from Torre Armada towards the beginning of the game. Na'Vi kind of switched over towards the top of Great Fields and now slowly moving in over the hillsides, just to the west of San Martin. Most teams towards the middle have a good, strong compound. QODEX here, this is one of the high ground compounds. It's pretty nice to play around with. Again, there are some better ones down towards the southwest, but they only become really strong should we see another southwest shift, which is going to be in a little while. You've seen that it's 24 seconds, top right of your screen there before the next circle starts to enclose. So a lot of these teams just vying for position around the map, John.
Trying to eke out a little bit of pressure anywhere they can. VIRTUS.PRO ticked away a little bit on the health bars there. 4 Romanian men also took a little tickle. Eastern Stars in the meantime did lose a player. And that's the only other team to have lost someone. Big took that scalp there over on the eastern side near Picardo, or just south of it. At Triera Hills, Chumasera being occupied now in force.
Take Aim Gaming, Team Doom, clashing.
Oh boy, he swapped to the back seat there.
Yeah, kept himself safe. Anyway, back to this fight that was actually just starting out.
Zero. Getting the spray, not quite landing it though. Take Aim Gaming, find Phantom, and don't lose anything really in response. No first aids though for Haj there. So need to be a little bit careful perhaps. A level 3 helmet will keep you safe, but won't fill your health bar back up.
Take Aim Gaming just send away. I mean, there's still positions down towards the south side that they can manage themselves and rather would not keep engaging versus Team Doom and lose too many players. They might wrap back around again and maybe catch them off guard later. Again, Circle now just about hitting 70% finished before we head towards the next one, and VP take that moment down towards the south side, just in Valdemar, just to move up towards the north.
Take Aim Gaming with Team Doom up the hill still. Just backed off just that little bit. QODEX playing fairly central. I say fairly central, pretty much as central as you can get right now, Blank. Right in the middle there, there's the blue teams. Shockwave to their west, TJB to their east. Everybody looking at that hill and thinking, what could I do with that hill? Ooh, just give it over to me. But instead, we go to the valley again. We've been on this valley before, out the south of La Riera.
Very grim to play as well. I mean, again, this is one of the more awful circles that can hit here, considering you have kind of an equal split between the west and the eastern side of this valley. So you do have to pick and choose and figure out which one is worth playing. Na'Vi, Unicorns Love, Eastern Star, all put out by this one, and Na'Vi will have to rotate down towards the western side and perhaps try and pick up a spot towards where MUERTE was playing. I think this is one of the games where Na'Vi was able to sweep over the top, actually, and find themselves fair few eliminations. They might just be able to do it again. MUERTE will try and hold them out, though. VP move through. This is down towards the middle of the valley. They're a little bit worried about going topside just yet, but Take Aim Gaming hold them out, send some shots their way, and VP instantly dip away from that. It's not a fight they want to take just yet.
Seems like we're just going to see these tumbles go on. Again, back of the buggy, swap out VIRTUS.PRO. They know what they're doing with these tumbles. It was old boy before.
Not particularly difficult to achieve, but that is how they got down and how they sent away. If you were wondering. Pioneer over towards that western side. Now, haven't had the greatest of games that they were looking for, despite having some good positioning. Not able to quite take it home. Still in 5th place with 28 points and 17 placement points total. Their elimination count just a little bit low, but not anything too drastic on their side. So they can keep putting up these numbers. And it's the usual suspects towards the top side with VIRTUS.PRO, Pioneer, and MADBULLS. Na'Vi really kind of the massive outlier at the moment, down towards, I believe that is 11th place, though I might need to reload here.
Spray from Keme over towards Game Lord. Robs not going to get spun out by it and won't go down to it either. Na'Vi have spotted MUERTE in the meantime. Game Lord answer the shots over towards Eastern Stars. Unicorns of Love in the vicinity as well on this northeastern side. Does QODEX fall under pressure as well? A little bit more middle, but have a way to go. Eastern Stars actually, he's really, really close to Death Machine, but diverts just in time. Buzzy can get away from it. Back up to the rest of the team. Zone 3, so the zone not super hard hitting, but will be a problem nonetheless. Unicorns of Love, probably bigger problem for MUERTE right now over on that north side.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fight that I really did want to have a look at, and it's Na'Vi who is taking it straight to MUERTE. English tries to send on the outside, but Tixie's already in close range action with the UMP. Fair few headshots coming there as well, and Tixie's on the off. He's really sending it into them now.
There they go. Moving on through to MUERTE with just that air. Tixie is on the swivel with 3 eliminations. Tixie is riding strong here on Miramar. Kitsune can move down towards them. The circle moves towards them as well. The Unicorns of Love need to be fended off from the north side, but if they can do that, they're in a really good spot for Na'Vi.
For MUERTE, Ruthless Esports, Unicorns of Love have caused significant problems in the past. Moneyken, though, one-man army, as we like to call him, is currently trying to decimate the ranks of Death Machine. Does find another, and though they found 4 eliminations over towards Picardo, it looks like their run will be cut short. Lickety split like that. NASA's able to stand up tall for just a little bit longer, but there's the shots over the top from Vito. Will send him to an early grave, and Death Machine, the 4 limbs on towards Arabian Champions. It's over.
Double Na'Vi, 1 Pioneer prediction. Everybody banking on the top high ground there. Vito actually doing a lot of the work in that engagement. I mean, we were on board with Moneyken there, but Vito got both of the knocks over towards the players originally. The swings came through from the rest of QODEX. Moneyken was a great anchor, a great forward position that meant they couldn't push back into them, but Vito really did a lot of heavy lifting there with the legs.
Absolutely. Going back to olden days in Phase 1. Seems so long ago, but he's able to do some work here. Robs on the low ground will be spotted out. Game Lord often finding difficulty into this circle. Not able to get anything done. Unicorns of Love, though. Crypto from behind will find Meku, and that's all the way on the off angle. So losing a player like that, disastrous. And they are just lobbing their way over towards him. So Na'Vi will be going down to 3 players. You doubt that anything can happen in his favor.
Meku does get flushed there. You feel like Na'Vi might have wanted to regroup. Perhaps they weren't aware of Unicorns on their north side. But you've got to think that they probably were, so not entirely sure about the process there. Take Aim Gaming, ground floor against Beast. 1 player remaining for Big. They've been consistent today. They've been keeping up the numbers. Now it's down to Beast to see how far they can go here on Miramar on the last game of the day. He's given them the old runaround, certainly, and turns it around for another. Looks for 2, and Beast is able to take down a team before finally falling to 4 Romanian men. Goodness me, Beast is absolutely going to make him fume with that one.
I mean, Max has been talking about how much this guy has been stepping up tall for the team, and there he looks 7 feet tall, in fact. So very, very good stuff for him. Does take some team down before he goes out. 5 points total found for them. For Na'Vi, I would absolutely expect them to know that Unicorns of Love take this rotation. I think Meku just got caught by a very, very nice shot from Icy there, straight down towards him. And for Na'Vi, this is a team that I know is looking back at the VODs, and they are really studying them. So I think for them, it is something they were aware of, and I think for Meku, it's just a case where he peeks out for a second, instantly gets dominated. Kitsune going down as well to Pioneer. It's all going wrong, down to just 2 players now for this team that looked very strong on that side, but because Pioneer controls so much of the south and it's very difficult to get up towards that position, they understood that a lot of teams on that north side were going to be taking fights with one another.
RV down to 2 is really not ideal, but you do have Matic and Tixie. And that is potentially something that you can lean on. Look at the high ground that Pioneer have. I think it was a double prediction from the desk on Pioneer, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct. That's coming through from Max and Kalaris.
It's a reasonable prediction. In fact, I would say it's a good prediction. You expect nothing less from our quality analysts.
Our resident predictors. Yeah, that's correct. That's right.
Kalaris, our predictor-in-chief.
Difficult circle for these teams, though. Northeast shift, and about as hard as it gets as well. Stressful for Pioneer because now they're going to have to retake positions that they didn't necessarily want to clear. They were hoping that that north side would clear on its own, personally. But Na'Vi, this gives them a little bit of a break. I mean, they are in the line of fire, a lot of these teams. They don't have enough angles to kind of keep teams at bay either. But because they are in the circle, maybe the guys from For Remaining Men, Team Dune, TJB, even Eastern Stars will go out before them and they might be able to pick themselves up some placement points. I did feed you some bad information here earlier, guys. I'm so sorry. Ooh. Na'Vi currently 4th place, 37 points, so still doing fairly well for them.
There's a little bit of a replay. Tixi. This is the 3 eliminations he got. There's the early knock there. Spins it on, pushes out for a second. Always on the swivel. And then the last is Dadev out here. Turns around, 180 for the spray. It was really, really solid close range engagement from Tixi.
Oh, Na'Vi looking to put the stopper over towards Unicorns of Love and put the brakes on before they can get up topside. Tixi will finish off the last player in Reznov and Matic for Icy. It's that 4-man team left low by just the 2, and we know exactly, as you said earlier, John, it's Tixi and Matic. These 2 guys are insane when it comes to the gunfights.
And if you keep them in close range, if you keep them in the circle, they have got that chance to take those close range gunfights because teams will have to move to them. VIRTUS.PRO, who in the last game surpassed Pioneer in terms of the chase towards the MADBULLS. They currently sat 559 overall, MADBULLS 588. Now have a chance to close that gap even further. With MADBULLS not playing in this game, they've played all those games so far. Can VIRTUS.PRO start to swing back in on the overalls? QODEX taking the fight with TJB. TJB's last player, GK first as well. 4 players alive for QODEX, so GK first with a lot of work to do down the hill. Not the best of positions.
Yeah, Visa Stars, they are really struggling too. I mean, they're constricted by multiple teams. Pioneer looking to take the fight to 4 Romanian men who have managed to get themselves up towards the high ground. Izumitsu with a nice grenade over the top side. Not even required, and Killer will go down as well. Again, the guys on the desk constantly talk about this guy is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the team, but first he needs to get back into the blue and hopefully not go down to it.
Oh, circle. Right on top of Na'Vi, blank. It's all the way up there. VIRTUS.PRO could pose a threat, though. If VIRTUS.PRO take this compound now, Na'Vi could struggle. But if teams can move up and play as those off angles against VIRTUS.PRO, Na'Vi might be able to hold on to it.
Maniken looking towards Eastern Stars is a team that they have been suppressing for a long, long time. And with Maniken holding them in the building, it's only a matter of time before Woodson sends that grenade through. Now they can start to think about cresting over the ridge and looking towards Na'Vi's position. Pioneer, they do still have 4 players, and at 4 eliminations, they dealt with Team Doom, they sent them back, and they have kind of wrestled with QODEX, who still take more casualties to GK first, the lone soldier.
Still trucking. 10 eliminations for QODEX, wow. It is big points on the cards for them, and I feel like they have stepped up so much back to what we've seen from them previously. Can they hold on to that power? Hopefully so for all the QODEX fans out there. Team Doom up the hill towards Pioneer, who are still operating with 4 themselves. Easy. Makes it pretty easy for that spray to land. Fesh able to do the job. A nice spray down. 5 eliminations now coming on for Pioneer.
Yeah, kind of like a target dummy there for Fash, and really it was as simple as just standing up and sending the spray on. For a pro player like that, it is simple pickings. Pioneer have to engage a lot of smokes here. They still hold quite a fair bit of high ground, but making their way in, they were exposed to QODEX. Maniken going down to GK first. Again, that snake. A lot of games have them, and they have been really doing some serious work in terms of changing the overall outcome of these matches.
Na'Vi with their duo just holding inside that building. Pioneer now the only 4-player squad. It looks like they want to sweep Shockwave away. They have moved back a little bit, and they certainly are looking down the ridgeline. As TJB, their last player, GK First, still going at it against QODEX, who are now down to 3, and Nade is looking to be fairly on target, but PNL is really far out on an off angle. Right next to the blue zone, we'll have to push up and regroup.
With the amount of health that GK First has there, he could even maybe have tried to challenge that. It would have been difficult with the off angle. Pioneer, the slow but steady threat within the circle, though, as they start to make the line, looking down towards a lot of teams. And GK First has held QODEX in this position for so long, all by himself.
He's going to go for more as well. Can't quite get anything on a knock, but a lot of damage to Woodson and Vito. Pioneer swinging over and take down Shockwave, but they're taking shots from Na'Vi in the meantime. A player went down on the back lines. And now they have to figure out how to move forwards from here. QODEX sending out their way as well with another knock onto Havlik. Pioneer are getting dismantled. Na'Vi as the duo will have to leave their compound, and now Pioneer, despite having the majority of the circle, are very much under threat.
Tixi, Matic to stand up towards them, and Yankee as nades go through. Matic just about got a first aid kit off as that second nade hit. Look how low they are. A single nade will take them down, and through that window it looks pretty decent, but doesn't quite do enough damage for them. They have a ton of nades to play around with. That's the last one from Yankee, though.
Both players got that first aid off, bringing them the health totals that they needed. Tixi, close range, needs to hold off on the right-hand side, worried about the door. Smoke blooms in front of it and slows things down. Makes it hard. Tixi pushes down, gets a cheeky little bit of damage over onto Mer, but Tulika repositions. They know they have to leave. Is it worth even going for this? VIRTUS.PRO will find it tricky to leave. Tixi is just playing really wacky angles here and making it work. Fades away into the building and stays alive.
That gives information as well, and Matic looks like he wants to challenge. Pioneer actually goes down to QODEX. Terrific result for them with 14 eliminations on the match.
Sprays from QODEX now on the oversight as they control the entirety of this circle. VIRTUS.PRO have one side of the building taken away from them, wrested from their control. Na'Vi will have had to put a couple of smokes into this engagement, but not nearly as many as VP, I don't imagine. Matic's now worried about the backside of this house, but the blue zone will push everybody into the sightlines of QODEX. Down the stairs, you've got to go for something, and it will be Yankee to fall for it. Spray down in a second as well. Na'Vi with the duo showing us what they're made of. Get the flush as well as VIRTUS.PRO eliminated. Na'Vi take care of them, but with QODEX around the hill, they will struggle to leave here. Tixi down. Matic now solo player for Na'Vi. Vito rides in, spots the player in the window, but Matic sees him first. Spray down as well in the second, and PNL is close. Wants to find Woodson, but the blue zone is there, and it will be QODEX to crunch Na'Vi out of it, despite their flamboyant display in those final engagements.
Second place for Na'Vi with 2 players is just extraordinary in terms of a result that game. And you look at QODEX though, they had the circle a lot, but they didn't have the best position with the circle. Obviously Pioneer was holding a lot of high ground, and QODEX kept having to be on the swivel. They dealt with Eastern Stars, they dealt with Team Doom, they were dealing with players down the hill as well. It was not an easy game for the QODEX players, and yet they still make it out of there alive. And even with only 3 players, they understand the next move, which is we have to quickly clear Pioneer and then move over the top side towards this engagement going between VP and Na'Vi. VP maybe had a chance there to set themselves up strong against QODEX before the fight concluded between them and Pioneer. Unfortunately, Na'Vi was just on a absolute another level with Tixi and Matic. We know these guys can perform as a duo. We've seen it in Livic and we see it here again. You can never count Na'Vi out.
No, they did absolute wonders for the squad, and really, really solid stuff. 1,200 damage for Tixi. That is absolutely insane coming through from him. It's excellent news for the squad, as I say. But in the end, I mean, this is a QODEX that we haven't seen in a long time, Blank.
Yeah, we really haven't, and I think that I think a lot of it does come down to the circles that they were given. I don't think it was the most killer teams around them either, not to kind of put too much of a dampener on this chicken dinner for them. Regardless, really, really well done.
Yeah, they did absolutely phenomenally well to be able to close that one down with a really solid performance on the top of those hills. Pioneer crumbled before them, and QODEX take the chicken dinner.
A big win for QODEX, a much needed win for them. But also, Max, guess what?
Our prediction didn't make it. What?
No. They did it without MUERTE.
Yes, actually, I said that just before I forgot. I said that actually. Fair point. But MUERTE still won it with the top fragger from the team. I didn't know where you were going with that one. But yeah, MUERTE actually was still the top fragger of the team. But yeah, actually, they made it into the late game without MUERTE and actually were able to close off a game without MUERTE. That's really impressive. So yeah, I mean, QODEX, I still want to see more from them before saying they're back in this third phase. But it's still good to see that they're still present every once in a while. So yeah, 31 points, that's big for them.
Massive, 31 huge points. And a way to close out the game as well here, taking advantage of the position they were in. I like how, well, I was kind of screaming at us when we were watching, like, stop peeking him. Why are you peeking the last member of Navi? He's in the blue. Just let him, die. You don't have to do anything. But 19 points for Navi, 15 for Pioneer, and 12 for VIRTUS.PRO. So even though, QODEX won, we still see 3 strong CIS teams coming through.
Yeah, and given the terrain that these guys were working with and stuff like that, this was... Anybody that's up on the high ground positions here is going to have a great time if they're already there. If you're not, you're going to have to go all the way up these valleys, which are notoriously difficult to go up. Some teams were able to make their way up, and congratulations to them, but the teams from the west side were going to have a lot easier time given the scenario that we actually had play out. Yeah. But QODEX, fair play to them. The way that they were able to transition up the side of this whilst also taking fights was pretty impressive against teams like TJB, etc.
Which is why it's actually so impressive for QODEX, right? Because they just finished a fight versus Death Machine, cleared out the entire team far over to the northeast, the circle shift to this cliffside position, and they instantly send it without any information, like nada, rien du tout, like nothing. I had to go to French to say how little information they had there. And they actually get themselves access to the high ground, and the moment they get that spot, they just start lasering down the teams around them. So it was a whole merit, like a kind of risky play, I would say, from them, but it paid off in really big ways on the angle they were able to win. So yeah, good from QODEX. It was risky, as I said, but it actually worked out and they made the most out of it.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was having a seizure when he went full French there for a second.
Bandito! No.
But we did have, what, Dixie was over like almost 1,300 damage done. He was really popping off. We saw a nice 1v3 he pulled off as well to kind of save his team earlier in the match too. And this is the closer, so I was saying before about Matic. Just like, yeah, I mean, he's dead. He's going to die in the blue anyways. You don't need to peek him. You don't need to potentially lose the game if he could somehow pull it out. But still a good finish here out of quite a few teams, and an exciting day. We didn't see MADBULLS just take it away, running away with the day. We didn't see Navi do that either. We got to see a couple of newcomers. But before we can get into our overall standings on the day, let's take a look at QODEX's player stats here, Max, as you wanted to see what each player was able to put up here in this last match. And surprisingly low damage for the amount of eliminations some of these players have.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly due to the fact that they took that fight versus Death Machine and then they just rotated to a spot and then they just stayed there idle for a long period of time until teams started to get in their vicinity. But yeah, I mean, it's still impressive to see MUERTE actually still being the top damage dealer, top fragger, and top also player when it comes to knockouts for the team, despite him going out a little bit earlier. But yeah, at least the team was able to just back it up. And Vito, I think you mentioned his name earlier on the pre-show there, Jason, that he is the one that we expected potentially more of for this roster, and seeing him actually also even out with MUERTE in terms of elims is good to see. So hopefully they can continue this momentum forward.
Yeah, for their sake, considering Phase 1, at least the beginning of Phase 1 was where they really showed, and then they fizzled out since then. But maybe the second coming of QODEX here. MVP, though. I almost don't want to make you guys predict, so I'm not going to make you guys predict. I'm going to be nice today. Let's actually see who our MVP of the day is going to be, because I don't think any of us really have a clue who it would be, though we have a couple of potentials, maybe Beast in there, or just Tixie, especially that last game.
This
is supremacy.
Slightly surprising to me, to a degree. Because, of course, yes, things have been a lot closer in day one, right? Which I think is awesome to see. Things have been a bit more open. But Tixie, always coming through. I think, yeah, as much as getting 9 eliminations is great, I think the amount of damage he's able to do while still getting those eliminations on the board is just a constant damage farm to be able to really put him up here. So he's always a lethal threat on the battleground.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also a lot harder to predict an MVP if we haven't seen overalls yet on the day, just to see like what teams were putting up, the most points. Because generally, you're obviously going to favor one of those teams, which is fine enough what we're going to get to eventually. But before we can get into overalls, we're going to take a look at a recap of our results today, because we have had a couple of winners that we normally haven't had in the past. I mean, Eastern Stars off the bat here on Erangel get themselves a big victory, and again, that's another team. If we talk about big, that just we just haven't really seen show up too much here this season.
Yeah, and he got himself a second place before that chicken dinner, actually, of on Sanhok, right? So they actually had 2 really good back-to-back performances, which is great. And after, in that game where they did get himself the chicken dinner, it was not just Beast, right? We saw ourselves some plays from Mazzaro, we saw some play also from some other players. It's good to see that the team actually was able to step up a little bit. Of course, I feel like I always repeat myself on this, but one day is not gonna cut it for Big. Sure, it's good because it's the start of the phase. If you cannot transition this success in the next few days and you just fall off in the overall rankings, you're gonna be in a horrible position. I think I checked earlier how many points lead they had in the finals. They had a total of 13. If we stop right now, we'd gone in the finals, they would have only 13 points compared to Pioneer that has 37, MADBULLS 35, VIRTUS.PRO 35. They are very far behind already, so they can't afford another bad phase here.
And also to kind of look at the results overall from today, at the end of last phase, I was hoping we would have West Europe teams fight back. And I feel like this today has been a bit of a fight back, which I think is excellent to see on the board. I think Big and Eastern Stars, especially 2 teams that we hope do well from the particular regions, have had a great start, which is nice to see here alongside, again, the big dogs of the lobby.
Yeah, well, let's actually see how good of a start they have had compared to every other team as we take a look at our overalls. I'm actually not convinced necessarily who the top team will be since we didn't have any back-to-back winners.
Oh,
It actually
wow.
will indeed be Big.
From 17th to 1st. That's a rise and a half right there from Big. Amazing to see 58 points total. And yeah, they got themselves that win and that second place. So on the day, that is going to have a really big dent on the other team. So not really too surprised to see them in that first place. But when you see your Navis, when you see your VIRTUS.PROs behind them, Pioneer currently in 5th position, you know that if there's one slight mistake, one slight fall off, you know they're not going to be able to hold on to that first place. So good on them, but there's some tough competition right behind them.
Wow, to put that into perspective, that's half the points they got all phase 2. Right?
Oh, wow.
So
I say it like that, yeah.
from 1 day compared to 6. So if Big is able to kind of keep this rolling, then yeah, we could see nice things from them. And again, they're a team that can do that. They're a team that can keep pushing with these points in mind. Just, I don't know, some of the previous phases, they looked a little bit lost, especially the last one.
Yeah, I mean, looking lost, I wonder if they have found their way. And well, again, to not repeat myself, we'll find out the next few days, right? We still have 2 days of back-to-back action, then we'll have a little bit of a break before we get back into the final section of Phase 3. But we look down the list here, and we can see Game Lord, again, looking relatively safe. Unless they have, like, what, 20th place finish at the end of this phase, most likely they should be the team coming through from this region into PMGC based on points alone. I think it was Ruthless was the one that has to close almost a 200-point gap, if not a little bit more than that. And as we see Ruthless, well, they're currently 19th place, so not really a chance to do so unless they can somehow turn things on. But TJB still down here, Death Machine as well, kind of replicating their performance from the last phase where they were, I think, 19th place, XTEAM currently in 18th.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of teams out there that I'm kind of surprised. You know, I think even Shockwave, maybe to alleviate some of the pressure I give some of these teams, I was expecting Shockwave to be a little bit stronger as well in this season.
Yeah, I think personally for me, you brought up their name as Death Machine, right? They had a really good start actually in the first phase, and we're like, okay, second phase, low above a blunder. Can they pick things back up in the third phase? I was really hoping to see the case. Not the case so far in this first phase, and especially I would say, stop fighting in Picado. The fight is weird versus Arab champions. It's all over the place. I would like to see another fight happen there. I don't think that this one makes that much sense, especially because Picado's so big. You can split your drops, but they still keep going for it, and it's not working out.
Yeah, they technically both could have a little bit of a slice of the pie there in Picado, but they're not willing to. Even outside of Picado, technically, I mean, there's some decent trash loot that you can then also rotate from, but yeah, that Picado fight is stagnating. Let's put it that way.
Well, we still have at least 2 days of action for them to continue to stagnate or potentially change things up and do things a little bit differently. Maybe make things a bit more exciting when it comes to that drop location. But gentlemen, we are done for the day. To all of you who are watching at home, thank you again for tuning in. But we'll be back tomorrow at the exact same time here for some more PUBG Mobile action as we get ever so closer to getting into the finals here.
To the top.
middle. I can see it in your eyes. Lonely in the corner, waiting for somebody to come and save you from the cold of night. Easily, we've been falling in disbelief. I think I'm ready for another try, but this feels like the last time. So why did you say goodbye?